Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Nika Fanfics. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What if Deku had strongest Erasure Quirk? Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. When Izuku was 3 he met his best friend. His mother had a best friend that he hadn't met yet, but then they moved to live down the road from them and he finally met them. He was told to call mom's best friend Auntie Mitsuki, and her husband Uncle Masaru. Their kid's name was Katsuki. He called him Kat. Kat called him Izzy. Kat was always energetic and loud. Izuku loved it though. Izuku was a bit lethargic, quiet, and introverted. He was the opposite of Kat, really. Somehow though, Kat took a liking to him too. The first time they met they went to a park near their homes. Kat had seen him, clinging to his mother, hiding behind her and ran up to him. He had grabbed his hand and dragged him over to the swing set. From that day onward, it was Izzy and Kat. Their moms kept them close, then sent them to the same kindergarten. It didn't take long for the other kids to pick on Izuku. They pushed him over and pulled his hair. He hated his hair, it was too long. Kat always came to his rescue when he could though. Kat would shove them away or pull their hair, then help him. He loved Kat. A thing that the world around them decided was important were quirks, which were like superpowers that most people had, instead of that one special character in a story. He thought they were cool, but didn't care as much as everyone else seemed to. He thought, if he wasn't weird before, then that is what made him weird. Others looked at him funny when he just shrugged when they asked about what quirk he'd want, if he was excited or not. That's okay though. There's nothing wrong with being weird, Kat had told him before. He believes Kat. Soon the other kids started turning 4 and the excitement about quirks grew. People usually started getting quirks around the age of 4. They can come early or late or even from birth, but the majority of people get their quirks around the age of 4. Superpowered children didn't sound good to Izuku. Even at the age of 4 he had an odd feeling about it. Kat was the first to get his quirk. It was pretty, Izuku thought back then. His quirk was Explosion, but at the time it was more like Sparks. Everyone praised him on his quirk, telling him he would be an awesome hero, but he always just scoffed and walked back to Izuku. He didn't tend to care for most people's opinions. He always said that Izuku's opinion was worth more than theirs. He said that Izuku, Auntie Mitsuki, Uncle Masaru, and Mom's opinions were the only ones that mattered. Izuku didn't have a dad, he had died before he was born is what he was told. That was when he learned that dying meant that a person would go to sleep and could never wake up. That a person would go away and never come back to you, because they can't. Izuku likes to think that if he did have a dad, Kat would like him too and value his opinion. Kat had gotten his quirk while he and Izuku were watching cartoons. Something made him angry and suddenly the hand that was in Izuku's was sparking. Izuku had yelped and Kat had jumped back in fright before looking at his hands that were still sparking and gasping. He called for Auntie and she patched Izuku's hand up while talking with Kat about his quirk. Izuku wasn't hurt that bad, the sparks weren't strong, but it did scar. He thought it was okay though. Kat loved his quirk, but he was upset he had hurt him. Izuku just shrugged and hugged him at the time. All the kids at kindergarten tried to follow him around, which irritated him, because they only started doing that when he got his quirk. Kat stuck with Izuku. Soon other kids were getting their quirks. Soon Izuku turned 4. Soon the kids with flashier quirks started to pick on the kids with less flashy quirks. Izuku, not having a quirk at all yet, was picked on more than he already was. Kat was still his protector though. Soon Mom had started getting nervous. She asked every morning he woke up and every day he got home from kindergarten or Kat's house, if he had gotten his quirk yet. Izuku would always answer no. Every day she would get more nervous. Eventually she took him to a quirk doctor. The doctor had creeped him out a bit. The doctor had taken a few tests and said, yeah, she's quirkless. Mom didn't look happy about that. She had sent him to his room when they got home. She made him eat dinner in his room that night. The next day they went to Kat's place. They were sent off to play but they weren't far enough away to not hear Mom sobbing about how he didn't have a quirk, how she didn't know what to do with him now. About how he wasn't good enough and wasn't what she wanted. Tears had dripped from Izuku's eyes at the time and Kat had wrapped his arms around him. They heard Auntie and Uncle get upset with Mom about what she was doing. They heard them argue and they ran and hid in Kat's room, cuddled close together. Izuku had sobbed. It was the first time that Kat had seen him cry. He hadn't thought being quirkless was a bad thing, but his mother clearly did. Kat told him that he didn't care though, which after hearing his mother, was a relief. Kat hugged him until they both fell asleep. Soon they got to primary school. The kids started to get meaner and the teachers were less caring. They didn't care when someone in class decided to be mean to Izuku. Soon Izuku learned all of it was because he was quirkless. Kat protected him when he could, but wasn't always able to. Sometimes they were put into different classes and it was always worse when they were. Then they were in middle school and it was awful. Izuku lost all respect he ever had for adults. Not including auntie and uncle. Cat wasn't in the same class as him and the kids tripped and punched him as much as they could and drew on his desk and wrote awful things. He hadn't said anything, but the teacher thought it would be funny to put a muzzle on him. The other kids thought it was hilarious. Izuku hated it, but knew it would be worse if he fought it. The muzzle scarred his face. Cat wasn't happy when he found out. Neither were auntie or uncle, but they knew that if they made a complaint nothing would happen. Primary school didn't do anything about the bullying when they had complained. Mom didn't care. She hadn't cared much about him since that doctor's visit. He only upset her if he tried to talk to her. She never tried to do anything about what he went through at school. Sometimes he got held up at school, unable to get to Cat in time, and he'd be beaten up. He has some small scars from when bullies caught him. Cat always found him and patched him up. They'd spend those nights in his room, cuddling and watching movies. One day he noticed his chest wasn't as flat as usual and he felt upset about it. He had chopped his hair off at the beginning of middle school because he hated the length. He also hated when he was called a girl and people used she/her for him. When he thought about that, he had searched what that meant. The next day he came out to Cat as trans and told him his pronouns were he/they, and that his name was Izuku. Cat had hugged him, and Izuku felt very happy when he heard his name said by his best friend. He told auntie and uncle and they accepted him too. Mom wasn't so supportive though. Not that she ever was about anything. Then their last year of middle school came. Izuku ran a hand through his green curls as he looked at his reflection, tugging on a curl as he lowered his hand, letting it ping back in place. His mom dyed his hair green until he was 7, then started buying dye every few months for him to do it himself. She got sick of doing so much for them. Now she just makes sure there's food, the water runs, the electricity works, that they can still sleep there in their apartment, and every couple months would give him money. Their mother hardly talks to them, he hardly sees her, she works, she goes elsewhere, she never says, hardly even ever calls out that she's leaving, she's home, he hardly sees her, because she avoids them. Their mother hated their actual hair colors. He is thinking he might stop dyeing his hair. He's getting tired of the green dye. It doesn't really feel nice while putting the dye in either. Maybe Izuku could dye their hair another color sometime. Izuku sighs and pulls out their makeup bag. He clips his bangs to the side out of the way. They cover the silver scars and freckles scattered like stars on their pale face. He brushes black on the lower lids, dark at the edge they started at, softer as it moves closer to the inner corner of his eyes. They brush pink along his eyelids close to their eyelashes, using a lighter color just above it. Izuku glides a black eyeliner pen along his eyelids, cat eye. They don't apply mascara, they hate the feeling. He decided that he'd only wear it if it was a special occasion. Izuku unclips their hair and messes with it for a moment before putting the bag away and rushing off to his room. Izuku collects all his school things and shoves it in their bag. They leave their room and start heading to the door, before hearing a throat being cleared in that way that says, "Now you shall pay attention," and turning to the sound instead. Something in her eyes just feels very wrong on this day. He doesn't trust it. Mom started to approach and it reminded them of lions and tigers, big cats really, how they'd slowly approach their prey, then pounce and attack. Then she did, and the moment it happened all he could think was, "What?" as their eyes widened and a stinging pain was felt on his cheek. She walked away after a moment and Izuku watched her retreat. What just happened? He didn't know. He shoved his boots on and left the apartment like nothing happened. They jogged to Kat's house and walked in silently. Izuku waved to Uncle and Auntie came over and kissed his forehead, then they went upstairs, entering Kat's room. There was cursing at his sudden entrance. They were used to swearing though, so it was fine. He swore too, but not as often or as much. Izzy. Beach, sheet, Izzy. You surprised me. Knock next time. Cat yelled as he buttoned his shirt up. Izuku just hummed. Izzy, Izzy, moth, you good? What happened? Cat asked, narrowing his eyes as he stared at them, probably trying to read his eyes. Izuku doesn't tend to do eye contact, so he can't really tell if Cat is trying to read his emotions. He stares at his nose instead. Cat understands they don't like eye contact very much, knows it makes him feel weird and knows he doesn't know what to do when it's made. I got whacked on the way here, don't worry though, I'm fine. It's just an upsetting way to start a probably upsetting day. Izuku says. He isn't lying, he just doesn't say who did it. Cat doesn't know that things with his mother haven't been great since he was 4. Nor do his parents. They don't know that they're always over because it's where he's most comfortable and least lonely. Now possibly the safest too. There are a couple reasons he doesn't say a word about it and possibly never will. No one needs to know anyways. Cat wrapped his arms around their shoulders after a nod. Izuku wrapped his arms loosely around his waist, resting his head on Kat's shoulder. Kat ran a hand through dyed curls as he sighed, before releasing them. I don't want to go to school, the place SCKS, and I never see you there anymore. Kat huffed with what definitely wasn't a pout on his face. Yeah, school SCKS. Not long until the end of middle school though, so, Izuku muttered. Yeah. Remember we aren't training today, today's a break day, beach. Kat said with a glare. Yes, I know. Izuku sighed. You have trained almost every day since we were FING 9, now that I know that you've been overworking yourself, I can make you take FING breaks. Kat said with a grin with a threat hidden. They've both trained together for years, but until a few days ago Kat didn't know they trained for hours after he'd left and on days they weren't supposed to train. Then he finally found out and was said, and so now he has to take more breaks. Yeah, Izuku muttered, eyes staring at the floor. Hey, it'll be okay, nerd. You don't need to work as hard as you've been working, it's not healthy, and you will do fine, and if others don't think so, direct them to me. Kat said with a smirk, a shadow falling over his face as his hands sparked threateningly. Okay. Izuku sighed. Good. Let's get the F outta here. Kat said, grabbing bag in their hand and leading him out. Bye. Kat called loudly as they made their way to the door. Bye, brat. Auntie called back just as loudly. Bye, Suki. Uncle called, not as loud. Bye. Izuku called, loud enough that it was heard, but no louder. Bye, baby. Auntie shouted. Bye, Zoo. Uncle called back. Kat dragged Izuku out of the house with a huff. So many FING bice, what the sheet? Kat said, scrunching his nose up. Izuku hummed. Let's go. Kat sighed and dragged him along. Izuku was sitting in his seat, face muzzled as he listened to tunes in his head, classmates all around him as he watched his teacher make his way to the front. The teacher rambled on and Izuku just watched, pretending to pay attention, resisting the urge to sway to music that wasn't playing. Izuku watched the teacher throw papers in the air with a grin and the class cheer and illegally use their quirks. Izuku hears the class is loud but isn't hearing a word. Izuku continues to discreetly watch their surroundings, then suddenly he's snapping to attention. Midoriya, you've applied to UA, haven't you? The teacher calls, and Izuku curses in his head. The class began to mock and tease and laugh, he just let them, not that he could say anything anyways. Izuku was shoved against the classroom wall. His muzzle was off and it was the end of the day, most of the class had filed out. Izuku didn't fight against the hands pushing him by the shoulders against the wall, he'd end up in trouble if he fought back, as in the past. Freak. You still think you can be a hero? Huh? Well, no, you can't, and HA like you'd ever make it into UA of all places. They shouted in his face, Izuku doesn't even know their classmates' names. Pathetic. Girl, you gotta give up already. The other kid scoffs. Izuku's face doesn't change from its usual apathetic state, they stay silent. Izuku is shoved once more into the wall and released, the pair start making their way to the exit. Izuku waits in place, watching them through his bangs. One turns back to look at him, they're smirking. Hey. If you really want to be a hero so badly, there is another way. Izuku has a feeling that what they're about to say isn't helpful at all. Just take a swan dive off the roof of the building and pray for a quirk in your next life. Haha. Wow, it wasn't helpful. Shocker. Izuku is left alone, finally. That wasn't the first time that he'd been suicide baited. The first time he was 7, and he was mostly sure that it was a joke that children who didn't understand life and death and why it wasn't okay for one to wish another's death. The next time they were 9, and the children had a stronger understanding. Then he was 10, the understanding was stronger and that's when he started to think that maybe they really did want him dead. It became something that just happened sometimes, like a monthly thing. Izuku thinks that, maybe, it doesn't matter how strong an understanding of life and death and how it's wrong for one to wish another death is. That maybe they find what they're saying funny, that maybe they take pleasure in others' upset. He thinks that the only time where they'd find it unfunny is when someone takes their jokes seriously and tries to die. Does die. So these people may never learn what they're saying to him is wrong. They don't particularly care to die, they plan to live until they die, they'd never commit suicide. Izuku picks up his bag and heads over to the wide open window. He stands on the windowsill and looks down. Cat is there under the tree. Izuku leaps and latches onto the tree branch, swings to the next one and sits on it. Then he leans back and dangles upside down behind Cat, unnoticed. Boo! Izuku breathed and Cat stiffened and whipped around with wide eyes. A dash, Cat stuttered. F dash. Izzy. What the sheet? Cat yelled, pinching their cheeks and pulling. Triple aim. Izuku hummed as his face was pulled, their eyes squinting closed. God damn it. I can't even stay mad. You're too cute. Fucker. Cat growled playfully. Come on, get down. Cat said as he released Izuku's face. Izuku got down, Cat took their hand and they started making their way back to Cat's place. Now, what do you want to do? Paint, draw, bake, cook, video games, movies, or something else? No studying, no training. Cat asked, dragging them along. Movies. Maybe painting too. Izuku murmured as they started making their way through the sketchy underpass. Alright, Cat said with a nod. Suddenly there were sounds coming from behind Izuku, a muttering voice, a gurgling sound, and the sound of something clattering on the ground. Cat's hold on his hand grows tighter and they start running, not even looking back. They both had a bad feeling. Then he was yanked from Cat's hold, a wet, thick, cold, liquid pooling around their feet, up their legs, around their waist and chest, covering his arms, crawling around their face. Izuku takes a deep breath just a moment before sludge is being shoved through his nose and down their throat. The words coming from the villain aren't heard by him. He keeps his eyes on Cat, who has tears pooling in his eyes and is very clearly screaming and shouting for Izuku to be let go of. This may be how I die. He can see Cat use his quirk to stun the sludge and both Cat and Izuku are clawing away at the sludge, unsuccessful at getting it off him. I hope that if I die, Cat will be okay. Izuku blinks slowly, then opens their eyes. He feels the sludge clear from his nose and throat and move away from their body. Izuku coughs for a moment, his throat sore and irritated. Izuku looks up from the ground and sees Cat staring at him with tears pouring down his cheeks, and not far from them is a guy, completely naked and trying to scramble away from them. Cat walks over to him and wraps his arms around Izuku. He weeps and Izuku holds him and sways them from side to side, running a hand through blonde spiky hair. Izzy, Hick, you almost died, please don't die, Hick, not ever, please, please, please. Cat sobbed into his shoulder. I'm here, Kit Kat, darling, I'm here, I'll be okay, it'll all be okay, I have no intention of ever leaving you, it will be okay. Izuku muttered for only Cat to hear, staring at the man who cowers in his non-existent boots. Then there was a boom as the manhole cover clattered against the ground once more. I am here. All Might bellowed into the underpass, resulting in an echo of the words. I am getting a headache. Izuku continued to stare at the man on the ground, didn't even bother turning to the familiar, loud voice. Cat quickly released him and wiped his face, trying to hide that he had cried. Cat looked at his face, eyes widening at something, then turned to the voice, eyes widening a bit more before narrowing and glaring. Where were you? Cat ground out. What do you mean, my boy? All Might asked, sounding confused. Where were you? They almost died. They were so close to dying, so where were you? Because if you are chasing this guy you would have been too late to save anyone. Cat screeched in anger, hands set at his sides like he was about to start sparking. Well, I thought that it'd be fine to give the villain I was chasing a head start. Make chasing him down at least a bit fun, because obviously I'd catch him, I'm All Might. The man says, becoming more confident in his explanation as he spoke. You absolute FING moron. No. You don't do that. What the F dash? Cat yelled. Izuku grabbed his hand and rubbed circles on the back of it with his thumb. Cat looked at him and stared for a moment, he could feel, but Izuku kept their eyes on the naked man. Hey Izzy, have you blinked? Cat asked. Izuku thought that was a weird question, I don't know. Can you blink for me? Please, sweetheart? Cat asked softly. They break out the soft nicknames in these kinds of moments, where one of them is scared or upset. Okay. Izuku responds and does as asked. Interesting. Cat muttered and let off a mini explosion in his free hand. Izuku continued to stare down the naked man who was shaking and their head was whipping from one person to the next. All Might, hurry the F up and arrest this guy for attempted murder and probably a whole lot of other stuff. Izuku called, only loud enough to be heard. All Might then started doing his job and handcuffed the guy. Cat, that was violating. Izuku muttered, finally taking his eyes off the man. He made rare eye contact with Cat. Oh, sweetheart. Come here. Cat said softly and opened his arms for them. Izuku wrapped his arms around Cat's waist and nuzzled into his neck with a sigh. He feels disgusted and disgusting and just wants to lie down. All right, boys, I shall be on my way. I must hand over this evil doer. All Might boomed with his annoying grin. TCH, came from Cat in response. Izuku didn't bother even looking up. Soon they were alone in the alley. Zoo, let's go home, okay? Cat asked and Izuku nodded into his shoulder. They walked home, arms linked. All Might is an awful hero. Izuku muttered as they walked down the road. That fucker, I used to idolize him, but that guy. Cat scoffed. He didn't call for medical or even check if we were hurt and he didn't get anyone to take our statements. I didn't like him before, because limelight heroes tend to SCK, but for F's sake, you'd think that, maybe, hopefully, the man holding up the country, would at least do his job right. Izuku hissed in disdain. That guy. You know what, I'm gonna text Ma and ask her to buy ice cream, cause it has been a sheet day. Kat told him as he took his phone out and started to type. Soon enough they made it to Kat's house and went upstairs. Okay, Izzy, take some of my clothes, go shower, I'll go after you. We can put your uniform in the wash. Brush your teeth and remove your makeup. Then when we're done we can cuddle, put on a movie and probably end up falling asleep. Kat said. Izuku nodded and rushed off to do as told. Izuku was sitting on Kat's bed with his legs crossed, hugging a stuffed pastel green cat to his chest, their binder off. Kat was in the bathroom. Izuku took a sip of water before flopping onto their side with a sigh. I hope that never happens again, that was horrible. Izuku thought back to what happened, then he suddenly remembered that suddenly the sludge just vanished and stopped existing, replaced with a man, just after he blinked. He thought that was odd. He would ask Kat about that at some point. Soon the door opened and he looked up. Kat was there. Kat walked over and pulled him to sit up, pulling the covers up, before signaling for him to crawl in, which he did and Kat followed him in. Okay, Izzy, time for bed. Kat muttered, turning on the TV. Kat selected their comfort movie, The Cat Returns. Izuku sets the cat plushie to the side and melts into Kat. After a moment he starts to silently weep into Kat's chest. Kat holds them tighter, murmuring to them that they were okay, that everything would be okay. Kat rarely saw him cry. Izuku didn't cry a lot. Izuku was overwhelmed today though. Izuku needed to cry. Kat said he was always there for him if he needed to cry. So Izuku cried. Kat cried too. They were both scared. They were both relieved. Sad. Happy. They were there. They were together. Soon enough they fell asleep, tear tracks on their cheeks and noses, soft breaths and the sounds of their sad times movie heard through the room. Later Auntie Mitsuki would come home with chocolate chip ice cream and head upstairs to Kat's room and find them there. She'd recognize the movie playing as what they'd watch when either or both of them were upset. She'd see the way they cling to one another and the tears on their faces. She'd remember that neither of her kids were quick to cry. Auntie would write a note telling them there was ice cream in the freezer and kiss them both on the cheek before leaving them to sleep. Neither Izuku or Kat would know she did any of that except for write a note. They slept for hours wrapped in each other's warmth. The next morning Izuku rubbed his eye with his free hand as Kat dragged him along. He hadn't done eye makeup today, instead just covered up his scars and freckles. He didn't have enough energy to make himself feel pretty. Izuku remembered something suddenly and spoke up. Hey Kat, do you know what happened to all the sludge yesterday? Izuku asked, tiredly tilting his head. Oh. Sheet, I knew I forgot something. Izzy, so this'll sound crazy but one moment, your eyes were normal, then you blinked and they were glowing and suddenly all the sludge vanished. My quirk stopped working too, until you blinked and your eyes stopped glowing, Kat explained, walking backwards, holding Izuku's hand and waving his free hand out. Izuku blinked. Guess I'm going to a quirk doctor then. Izuku muttered. He hated quirk doctors, they SCKED. Good idea, I'll go with you. Kat said, turning back around so he wasn't walking backwards. Izuku nodded although it went unseen. Izuku and Kat sat in an office across from a blonde-haired lady who introduced themselves as Dr. Jane Silver, they. Hello, little ones. Okay, so it says here you are here because you may have just manifested a quirk. Alright, so I'll use my quirk on you if that's alright. It's a quirk analysis quirk, it'll tell me what we need to know. Can I have your hand, little one? She asked. Izuku hesitantly placed his hand in theirs. A moment later he had his hand free again and they were writing down everything. Okay, you have an Erasure Quirk. You can use it on one or more people you can see, it deactivates when you blink. If you use it too much you will get headaches or nosebleeds, exhaustion maybe. When it activates your eyes light up and your hair floats. You may want to invest in eye drops because you may get dry eye, but as long as you take care of yourself you probably won't. Erasure Quirks are rare, but there are quite a few out there. I know there's someone with basically the exact same as this one except they can only use it on one person at a time. Dr. Silver says with a smile. Eraserhead? Izuku asks, knowing it's true, but curious if that's who they meant. Wow, you know underground heroes? Smart, little one, indeed it is Eraserhead. She answers. Izuku hummed and looked over to Kat who grinned. Okay, I'll update your status. What do you want to call it? They ask. Gone. Izuku told her after a moment. Oh fun. Mysterious. Okay, you two are free to go, but do come back if there's anything new. She said happily. Kat stood and Izuku followed with a nod. We will, thank you Dr. Silver. Izuku said quietly as they left. Soon they were outside. Izzy, how do you feel? Kat asked, wrapping an arm around Izuku's shoulders as they walked back to Kat's place. I have a quirk now. Everyone hated me because I didn't have a quirk. Now I have a quirk. Not only do I have a quirk, but it's also a quirk that'd be considered villainous, because I'm taking away their quirks. I don't think I'd be treated any better if anyone knew about my quirk, Kat. Izuku muttered. Ah. F, those assholes. You're cool, your quirk is cool, people are assholes, F, their opinions, they're bullshit and I hate them. Kat huffed. Izuku leant into his side with a hum. F, people. Izuku muttered. Figuratively. Kat snorted, you just had to specify, huh? Yes. Izuku said with a nod. Oh, you pure baby. Kat cooed and pinched their cheek. Really? Izuku asked, cheek being pulled. Yep. Kat replied with a grin. Izuku sighed. Okay then. Izuku. Kat said. Katsuki. Izuku responded. Stop trying to run away. Kat said, arms wrapped around their waist. But look how many people there are and how huge that FING building is. Izuku hissed, gesturing widely to the building as he was lifted so his feet didn't touch the floor. I know, intimidating. Let's go in. Kat said, walking through the gate, still holding Izuku off the ground. That's the kind of attitude that gets horror movie protagonists killed. Izuku groans. That's the kind of attitude of a character not trying to get killed but ends up dead anyways because the protagonist drags them along to get killed. Kat said. Ugh. Guess this is our death day. Happy death day, brother. See you on the other side, of what I do not know. Izuku murmured. TCH, okay. I don't know if I'll ever get used to your hair being like this. Anyways, you ready to walk yet? Kat asked. Ugh, fine. Izuku sighed as he was placed on the ground. Kat took his hand and they continued their walk. Today was the day. UA entrance exams. What a nightmare. Izuku is waiting for the gates to the testing zone to open. He feels like he did all right with the written exam. He sat with Kat during the explanation of the practical exam. Some guy shouted at them as they talked about what they could do against robots, planning, and Kat hissed at them, told them to F off and hissed again. Izuku just blinked and continued planning. They watch the gate, they make their way over to it without problem, avoiding everyone. As soon as it starts to open he gets ready to run, and as soon as it's wide enough, Izuku slips through the gates and sprints down the streets of the city. There's a yell as they find their first robot. Whoa! This guy gets it? No countdowns in real life. Go, go, go! Present mix voice calls. Izuku got to the robot undetected and climbed up it. He found a door on its back and opened it, finding an off switch. He flipped it and the robot collapsed. He jumped down with a small smile and ran for the next robot. Shota hates the entrance exam, it's biased and stupid, a waste of material really. All Might, a new member of the UA faculty, was there, making the experience just that bit more miserable. Shota keeps his eyes on the screens and just as the gates start to open he sees one small being rush and squeeze through the gates and sprint like prey running for their life. Shota's eyes are glued on them. A short kid, mostly black hair with white bangs, and he can see green in their hair as well. They have pale soft-looking skin, and dark yet bright green eyes. Their face is mostly inexpressive, like Shota's own. They aren't using a quirk from what he can tell. Shota watches as they climb a robot just as everyone else was making their way in. Shota watched them open a door on the back of the robot and flick an off switch and jump off the robot with the tiniest of smiles and run away for the next robot. Nizu? Shota calls. Shota? Nizu responds. The kid with black, white and green hair, I'd like them in my class please. Shota said. Of course. They're quite intelligent, I think, I marked their written exam already. I look forward to seeing what they do. Nizu says with a slightly wider grin than usual. What can you tell me about them? Shota asked out of curiosity. Well, when writing their name they wrote their legal name but also explained that they go by Izuku. Their name is Izuku Midoriya, they go by he/they pronouns, they're 15, their birthday is the 15th of July, they're probably dyslexic going off of the amount of time it took for them to do their exam and what the footage of them doing the exam showed. They only got their quirk 10 months ago. It's an Erasure Quirk, extremely similar to yours, Shota. Notes from their previous school are a bit quirkist and if I was to guess, completely untrue. Oh, and considering they're rescuing people as they go, they have potential for hero work. Nizu tells him. Shota stared at the kid as he erased an electric quirk before they could short-circuit and flipped the off switch on a robot that tried to attack the electric quirk user. Midoriya ran away not seeing the electric kid's blush. Kids. Shota directs his attention to another screen, this one displaying an explosion quirk user with a wide feral grin. Seems like they're having a blast. God damn it, unintentional puns. Shota can have the blasty kid too, I don't want them. Sekijiro huffed next to him. Okay then. Shota muttered. Ah, the explosive boy and the erasure boy. I remember them, they're quite rude. All Might huffed and Shota stared at the man. How so? Shota asked, voice calm. I met them about 10 months ago in an underpass. I was chasing a villain made of sludge, and when I got there was a man, naked, on the ground and those two boys hugging. I announced my presence, because well, I am All Might and I was there. The blonde one growled at me asking where I was. Then growled more at my explanation. Kept saying that his friend could have died, but they were fine when I got there, so, All Might explained with a shrug. Then the other one, who had all green hair last I saw him, growled at me to do my job, staring at the naked man on the ground. They both kept cursing at me, disgusting honestly. Shota glared at All Might. He thinks there's missing pieces to that story. He's glad 2 of his future students hate All Might too though. Nizu, think you could find security footage of what happened? Shota murmured. Nizu nodded. Okay then. Izuku waited by the gate for Kat, exhausted. So much running around. Finally Kat approached with a grin. That was so much fun. Kat cheered with a laugh in his voice. Well, you did get to destroy some sheets, so, not really a surprise. Izuku murmured as he climbed onto Kat's back, nuzzling into his shoulder, sleepy. Yeah. Hey, we should destroy stuff more often. Let's break a whole load of plates next time. Kat said as he adjusted his grip on Izuku's thighs. Okay. Let's go to yours. I want to sleep, Izuku whispered. Okay. Kat whispered back and started the walk back. Izzy. The letters, beach. They're here. Kat shouted as soon as he picked up the phone. Sheet, okay, do you want me to come over? Izuku asked. Yeah, get your butt over here. Kat demanded before hanging up. So Izuku rolled their eyes, rummaged through the mail until they found the letter and rushed over to the Bakugos. He opened the door and sang quietly as he slipped his boots off, guess who's inside again? Went out to look for a reason to hide again. Then spotted Auntie staring at him with a little smile. Hey, baby, she said and wrapped her arms around him, pressing a kiss to his head. Then she released him and sent him upstairs to Kat's room. Home is where I'm connected to the Wi-Fi. He states as he walks in. Sometimes they say random things, the reactions are worth it sometimes. Okay. Get your butt over here, Izzy. Kat exclaims excitedly from his bed, letter in hand. Izuku walks over and climbs onto the bed next to him. You go first, Kat. Izuku says quietly. Kat grinned at him with a happy hum and opened his envelope. Inside were papers and a disc. Kat found a button on the disc and pressed it. Izuku and Kat both frowned and scowled respectively at the figure that lit up above the disc. I am here. As a projection. All Might yelled. Izuku wrapped his arms around Kat's arm and leaned into his side, uncomfortable. There is a reason I am back in town. All Might said, to teach at UA. The Hero Commission probably got him in, I don't believe Nizu really wanted him there. Izuku muttered. Young Bakugo, you passed the written exam, 87%. Well done. Izuku said. Thanks. Kat replied. For the practical, you received 77 villain points. Putting you at the second highest score. Welcome. This is your Hero Academia. The projection stopped, All Might disappeared and Kat looked to Izuku. I'm in. Kat murmured. Yeah, congratulations. Izuku murmured. Kat ruffled their hair with a grin. Your turn, nerd. Izuku opened their envelope and pulled out the contents, pressing a button on the disc. They don't pay attention to the start, just patiently and impatiently, respectively wait for the next bit. Young Midoriya, you passed the written exam with 94%, one of the highest scores in UA's history, congratulations. Oh my god. Moths I knew were a genius. Kat teased with an excited grin. Izuku just stared at him, confused. For the practical, you found the off switch and managed to collect 57 villain points. This is enough to pass. Hell yeah. Kat yells. But, what kind of hero school would we be to not reward heroic behavior? Izuku hummed, head tilted to the side. The projector started showing clips of them helping people. Saving the electric kid, pushing the purple-haired kid out of the way and telling them about the off switch, pulling a bird-headed person out of the way, taking out a robot about to hit a blonde that reminded them of Kat, and freeing a brown-haired person from the rubble and running with them away from the zero-pointer, along with a few other clips. Young Midoriya, you earned 160 rescue points. Altogether you have 217 points, putting you in first place, breaking the previous record. Young Midoriya, this is your Hero Academia. The clip ended and the disc turned off. Izzy. Oh my god, you're going down in history. I'm so proud of you. Cat yelled, wrapping his arms around Izuku. Whoa. I'm really gonna be a hero. Izuku muttered, starry-eyed. Izuku loosely wrapped their arms around Cat, leaning into him. We did it. Cat whispered. We did it. Izuku breathed and closed his eyes with a light smile. Izuku stood in front of the mirror in their bathroom. Their scars and freckles were covered, eyeliner was applied, lip gloss too. Their hair was clean, fluffy and soft. The green was gone now, their hair came down to just above their shoulders. He couldn't handle having his hair past his shoulders, it makes him feel dysphoric. Their hair is black with a white fringe. Izuku wonders why? Maybe it's because of his dad or a grandparent. They don't know. Izuku stares at his almost snow-like white skin, his black and green mixed eyes, his shaggy, messy, fluffy mix of non-colorful hair, the smooth lines on his eyelids, his thin glossy pink lips, the stars dangling from his earlobes. They wore a white button-up shirt, blazer and pants that were gray and green and a red tie, bright and neatly tied. They looked at the enamel pins, the buttons, badges and safety pins decorating their uniform. Their nails were painted black, except for the middle finger, which was dark green, and peeking out under his sleeves were pretty bracelets that he almost always wore. Izuku stared at his reflection. Izuku stared for a while. Sometimes their reflection just felt so interesting to look at. They don't know why. Sometimes they're disgusted by it, delighted by it, but generally they're interested, but they don't know why. They stare for a bit more before leaving the bathroom. Luckily his mother had left early. Over the years she had started to hurt him physically sometimes instead of just ignoring him or never being around. It was even worse when he stopped dyeing his hair. Cat still didn't know, they wouldn't tell him though. Cat already isn't Mom's biggest fan after that time when they were young and he was diagnosed quirkless, when he broke down crying for the first time in front of Cat. Cat doesn't hate her or anything, more just prefers to stay away from her. Their parents had drifted apart after they had argued about his quirk status when he was younger. They still talked, yeah, but they didn't really hang out like they did when they were young. Izuku doesn't want to make anything worse. Izuku grabbed their bag, which had everything they needed packed inside. He placed his headphones on, to muffle the sounds of the world around him. They went and shoved their shoes on before heading to Cat's house. They got a look from an old couple on his way over, the look of wariness and disgust. He was used to those kinds of looks though. Izuku pulled out his key as he got to the door and unlocked it. They were given a house key a while ago. Izuku sat on the couch next to Uncle Masaru, causing him to jump before smiling and patting their head. Hey, buddy, how are you? Ready? Excited? Uncle asked with a smile. I'm okay, probably tired but that's normal. I'm ready, I have all my stuff. I don't think I'm excited, but I'm not normally excited by going to school anyways. Izuku answered. Uncle smiled a little sadly at him, running a hand through their hair. I think that school at UA will be different for you, little one. I don't know how school was for you, but I know it was bad and that Inko should have enrolled you somewhere else. UA will be different, there are heroes everywhere. Do keep an open mind, try to make some friends, yeah? Okay, Uncle. Izuku said. He isn't sure he'll try to make friends, but he may, if only to make Uncle happy. Okay. Uncle said back and wrapped an arm around them. Auntie burst into the living room not too much later. Izukin. Hi, Squirt. Ready for an awesome day? She yelled as she grabbed his hands to pull them up, before twirling them around to get a good look of him. Sure, Auntie. Izuku replied. Oh, you are such a pretty young man. Auntie said, holding their face in her palms before pressing kisses to his forehead, cheeks and nose, causing him to let out a breathy little giggle, which melted his aunt and uncle's hearts without him knowing. Suddenly arms snuck around their waist causing him to look down, then try to look behind him, but before they could turn their head properly they were lifted off the ground. Ah dash, Izuku said under his breath. Mine. Cat said playfully, causing Auntie and Uncle to laugh. Kit Kat, can I be on the ground please? Izuku asked. Cat huffed and let him down. You ready to rule the school, little emo? Cat asked. I'm ready to watch you rule and others drool. Izuku responded. Hell yeah. Let's go. Cat yelled, dragging him towards the door. Not so fast. Photo time. Auntie yelled before they could leave. Izuku sighed and Cat groaned dramatically, but they both stood side by side as Auntie pulled out her camera. They even posed for a few. Auntie has made them model their clothes before. Izuku didn't really understand why she had him model for her but always went with it anyways. Then after hugs from both Auntie and Uncle, Izuku and Cat were both racing to school. Izuku stood staring at the door for a moment. He was nervous. He didn't like many people. People don't like him. This is a place with all new people. They don't look nervous though. They know their face is apathetic, at least most of the time. It only added to the bullying, that's how they know. Same with being trans, because it got out after someone heard Cat and him talking and Cat referring to Izuku with he/they pronouns. Bullies took everything they could to use against them. Izuku knows that UA is a different place, that it is supposed to be different than the other schools, but that doesn't change that they don't trust that it will be. Izuku stared at the door. Finally Cat opened it, grabbing his hand and dragging him in. There were only a few students inside so far. Izuku made his way to the corner seat in the back by the window. Cat took a seat where there was one desk between them. That desk was already taken, there was a bag there, but no person was seated. Izuku folded their arms on the desk and buried their lower face into them, watching the class interact as more people arrived. The class was full and loud after a while. Izuku's headphones were still on, muffling the noise. Their eyes darted from one person to another until they noticed something yellow by the door and focused on that. The yellow thing made its way in, unnoticed by the others. Soon the yellow thing was just lying there. Izuku could see a face. Izuku could see them staring at the class, until they stared at them. Izuku just stared back, not knowing what to do when they made eye contact. The person in the yellow thing brought a finger to their mouth, signaling for him to be quiet. Izuku just blinked slowly before nodding subtly. A few minutes later one of their classmates screamed and the yellow thing sat up. The yellow sleeping bag was unzipped and the person inside stood. It took too long for you to notice me. Only one of you noticed me, well done, the rest of you, get better. The person says as they look over the class who are staring in confusion. What are you doing? The bell rang a while ago, get to your seats. The class then scrambled to their desks. Okay, anyways, I'm Shota Aizawa, your homeroom teacher. I think that's all you need to know. Anyways, Aizawa pulled a gym uniform out from his desk. Get into your gym gear and meet me in the field. He commands then walks over to the door. Izuku stands with his things and walks out the door before Aizawa's even out. Izuku doesn't see the surprise on everyone's faces, including Aizawa's. They don't hear Aizawa telling the class to go again either. Izuku headed straight to the changing room and locked himself in a stall. Izuku started to change and hesitated before taking off his binder and replacing it with a sports bra. They hope nobody notices his chest area. He's glad that the sports bra at least flattens it down a bit. As they changed eventually the rest of the class entered the changing rooms, talking loudly. Soon enough Izuku was done changing and left the stall. They found a locker and locked their stuff inside before turning around and heading for the door. See you soon, Izzy. Cat called. Izuku spared a glance and a nod before leaving. Hey, dude, what's his deal? A spiky redhead asked. Katsuki thought they were very handsome. Curse his gay brain. Ha? What do you mean? Katsuki replied with a glare, ignoring that thought. Well, he's so quick to leave and I don't think he's talked to any of us. You seem to know him though. They replied. Well, that's just how he is. Katsuki shrugged, and of course I know him, he's like my brother. Oh, cool, the pretty boy said. Oh, sorry, hi, I'm Ijiro Kirishima. Nice to meet ya. Katsuki Bakugo. Him. Hurt my brother and I'll set you on fire. Katsuki threatened. The pretty boy, Kirishima, just laughed and slung an arm around his shoulders as they started walking out. He pretends to be mad about it. Of course. I'd never dream of hurting the little guy, that'd be very unmanly. He said with a grin. Katsuki hoped his cheeks weren't as red as he thought they were. Izuku stood out in the field awkwardly. Aizawa was there too, looking impatient. It took a while before finally the class started to walk into the field. You're all gonna need to get faster. Well, except Midoriya. Aizawa said, sounding bored. Anyways, we are doing a quirk apprehension test. Testing your physical abilities, you can use quirks. The class began to call out in excitement. Wow, this'll be so much fun. Someone shouted in the crowd. Izuku frowned a bit. Oh? Fun you say? Well, if this is so much fun, then why not make it a challenge? The person scoring the lowest will be expelled. Aizawa said with a creepy little grin. Izuku thinks the man is having fun. The class then whined and complained. They were angry, nervous, and scared. But that's so unfair. Someone called and Izuku snapped at that. The world isn't fair. Izuku said it quietly, but it caught everyone's attention. They folded their arms and their face went back to its usual apathetic look. There is a lot of wrong in this world. Wrong tends to be unfair. Heroes are supposed to stop some of that unfairness. That wrongness. We are in a heroic C-class. One day, if we make it to graduation, it will be our job to try and fix some of what's unfair, what's wrong. So, unless you're not willing to try to fix the unfair, the wrong, listen to Mr. Aizawa, try your hardest and hope your hardest was enough. The class stared in silence. Izuku stared ahead, away from them. He didn't see Aizawa's and Katsuki's proud look, or the determination that grew in some of his classmates. Well said, thank you Midoriya. Aizawa said, and then the tests began. Okay, here are the results. Aizawa called, the class all held their breaths. Momo Yaoyorozu. Shoto Todoroki. Katsuki Bakugo. Tenya Ida. Fumikage Tokoyami. Mizo Shoji. Mashireo Ojiro. Eijiro Kirishima. Mina Ashido. Izuku Midoriya. Ochako Uraraka. Koji Koda. Hitoshi Shinso. Tsuyu Azui. Denki Kaminari. Hanta Siro. Yuga Aoyama. Kyoka Jiro. Toru Hagakure. Minoru Mineta. Izuku sighed a little in relief. He didn't have any way he could use their quirk in the test to help them, so they were worried they wouldn't do well. He leaned against Kat for a moment before walking off, not caring if there was more to be said. They were tired. Hey! Shota called when he noticed one of his little students wandering off. No point in calling him, teach, he won't hear you. His angry blonde student huffed. I think they're tired and want to get changed as fast as possible though. Bakugo told him. Shota nodded in understanding. Anyways, no one is expelled, it was a logical ruse. Shota says, wearing his wide grin he puts on to scare his students. He listens to the class shout for a moment until the noise settles. Okay, change and go back to class. Shota says and the class scurries off. Shota sighed as he made his way back to class. Midoriya is one of his favorite students already, he's just so interesting. He also reminds him of himself. That's not necessarily a good thing. Shota is going to be keeping an eye on the little one. He has a feeling something is wrong. Izuku sat at his desk as his classmates crept in, his headphones back on, muffling the noise. Kat came and patted his head before going to sit down as the last of the class entered, Aizawa closing the door behind everyone. Okay, so one by one, introduce yourselves, then you can do whatever you want until you can leave. Aizawa told the class before sitting at his desk, drinking coffee from a large travel cup. The class then started introducing themselves. I am Yuga Aoyama. He him. My quirk, Naval Laser. Mina Ashido. Call me Mina though. She her, my quirk, Acid. Tsuyu Azui, call me Tsu. She her. My quirk, Frog, Ribbit. I am Tenya Ida. He him. Quirk, Engine. Nice to meet you all. Ochako Uraraka. She her, quirk, Float. Haha. Mashireo Ojiro, he him, I just have a tail. Denki Kaminari. He him, Electrification, my loves. Eijiro Kirishima. He him. My quirk, Hardening. It'd be super manly if we could all be friends. Koji, Koji, Koda, Koda. He him. Ani voice. Hey ladies, the name's Minoru Mineta, obviously he him, my quirk pop off. Mizo Shoji, he him. Dupli arms. Kyoka Jiro, she her, quirk, earphone jack. Hey, I'm Hanta Siro, he they. My quirk, tape. I am Fumikage Tokoyami, he him, and this is my partner, Dark Shadow, he she they. Shoto Todoroki, he him? Half hot, half cold. Hi. I'm Toru Hagakure. She her. I'm invisible. Let's all be friends. I am Momo Yaoyorozu, you can call me Momo or Yamamo if you'd like, it is a pleasure to meet you all. She her. My quirk is Creation. The name's Katsuki Bakugo. He him. Quirk, Explosion. Mess with those who are mine, I'll light you on fire. Hitoshi Shinso, he him. Quirk, Brainwashing. Then it was Izuku's turn. He stood and made his way to the front, feeling everyone's eyes on him. It was disgusting. He kept his eyes on the ground. He stood silently in front of the podium for a moment, before taking a quiet deep breath and flicking his head up, looking over everyone. He doesn't know that his gaze spooked almost everyone, that his eyes were narrowed in a glare and the green in his eyes glowed the moment he looked up, flashing bright before the light died. His face was neutral as usual, as he drew in another breath, before finally speaking. Izuku Midoriya, he him they hm. Izuku mumbled, but cut himself off, not really wanting everyone to know he was trans. As much as they were satisfied by hearing they them just the same as he him, they didn't want to give them more ways they could hurt him. Wah, we could hardly hear you. And you didn't finish. You didn't tell us your quirk. Mineta whined from his seat. He's right. You should tell everyone. We all said ours, it's only right. And speak up too. Ida said loudly as he walked over to him, chopping his hands in front of Izuku. I am not obligated to tell anyone what my quirk is. Izuku said, voice quiet as always. But you should tell us anyways. Come on, everyone else has said theirs and we've all seen each other's quirks, yours is the only one we don't know. Please. Uraraka pleaded, having followed Ida, leaning into Izuku's space. No. Please stop. Izuku said clearly. The three continued to pester him on the subject until Cat growled and came up to his desk, the rest of the class clueless on what to do, and Mr. Aizawa focused on something, not knowing what was happening. You fuckers, what did I say about messing with those who are mine? Cat growled. Wah, but we aren't doing anything wrong. He's just being stubborn. And since when is he yours? Uraraka yelled, catching Aizawa's attention. Since we were 3, fucker, now scram before I really do light you on fire. Cat hissed and Ida and Uraraka backed up, away from Cat's raised hands. Kirishima then came up and wrapped an arm around Cat's shoulders. Hey, I'm sure that won't be necessary. They'll back off, won't they? Kirishima asked with a smile, which seemed to hide a threat behind it. The two backed away to their seats and Mineta was quiet, which seemed to satisfy Cat and Kirishima, based on the way they subtly relaxed. Cat's cheeks turned pink when he seemed to notice it was Kirishima by him. Izuku wondered why. Izuku didn't notice Aizawa taking notes on what students to keep an eye on. You okay there, Mito bro? Kirishima asked. Izuku tilted his head before nodding in response. Kirishima grinned at them. That's good, I'm glad. How about you, Baku bro, glad you didn't have to set anyone on fire? He teased. TCH, whatever. Cat huffed, crossing his arms and leaning against Kirishima slightly. Izuku knows that means he likes Kirishima, and Kirishima seems to understand that too, if him wrapping his other arm around Cat's shoulder with an even wider grin means anything. It's a bit odd to see someone so close to Cat. It's nice though. As time went on, Izuku kept to himself as most of the class interacted with each other, including Cat who was still with Kirishima. Then the bell rang and Izuku walked straight out the door as everyone else packed and the teacher stood. Texting Cat that he was tired and going to his apartment, he didn't particularly think of anywhere as home. They then wandered a bit, not wanting to go back yet, just wanting to relax in the quiet with their headphones protecting them from the world around them. Izuku wandered into a park. There were flowers, bushes and trees everywhere and the grass was long. There were bees, butterflies, birds and very few people around. It was bright yet gave off a soft, comfortable vibe. Not far away there was an empty playground, which was huge. It surprised them that there were no children there, honestly that there were so few people there really. There was an empty skate park too. Izuku thought it was beautiful and lay down under a tree surrounded by pinks, purples, reds, whites and greens. Izuku played his pre-Quirk era indie pop music playlist, turned the volume low, and closed their eyes. Izuku listens to a variety of music, but isn't stuck to one specifically. Cat calls Izuku emo sometimes, because of his fashion sense more than his music taste. Soon enough Izuku is lightly dozing in the shade of a tree in a beautiful park. Tamaki was walking into his favorite park and noticed a new person he'd never seen around there under a tree. He noticed they were in a UA uniform. Probably a first year. He was slightly in awe of the image in front of him as he got closer, walking further into the park. The person had their eyes closed, hands resting on their stomach, their hair splayed out, black with some white curls winding around the grass and flowers. They had headphones on and their blazer was covered in pins and badges, same with their bag which had been placed against the tree not far from them. Their boots shone and added a few centimeters to their height, the laces were undone on one of them. Their nails were painted black and green, their makeup was done, stars hung from their earlobes, their face was relaxed. They were shaded, but it was still bright. There were bright flowers of a variety of colors all around them. The image that painted was satisfying to his mind, but there was one thing that added to it. There were butterflies fluttering around them. Tamaki loves butterflies. The fact there were some here made this place all the more amazing. This was his de-stress place. There were common bluebottles, old-world swallowtails, chestnut tigers, there was even a large tree nymph. His favorite butterfly was the glasswing butterfly, because sometimes he feels like glass, something that's fragile and can be shattered, just hasn't yet. Glasswing butterflies felt fitting. There were 3 of them fluttering around them. Tamaki fiddled with the camera hanging from his neck, really wanting to take a picture. Tamaki took up photography during first year. No one except Mirio knew. It makes him happy and he gets to capture moments and keep them for as long as he pleases. He noticed a glasswing butterfly land on white wavy bangs and simply had to take the photo. He took a couple pictures from different angles and distances, then took a look at the results with a smile. In some of the photos other butterflies had landed on flowers and their blazer, one even on their hand. Tamaki was really proud of these photos and was really excited for if he would be able to edit them. He still needed permission first. Tamaki really didn't want to disturb them or the butterflies though. What if they think he's weird for taking photos of them without their knowledge? What if I have to delete them? What if they're mean? Violent? What if, stop. Stop, it'll be fine. No it won't. Tamaki panicked from his spot on a bench near the tree. Then he stood, trying to trick himself into thinking he was confident. He approached them and crouched a little bit away, not wanting to disturb the butterflies too much or make them uncomfortable. Hello? Tamaki called softly. They opened their eyes a bit, seeming to notice the fluttering beings around and on them, before glancing over to him. Tamaki took in the bright yet very dark green of their eyes, then took in the softness he could sense in their gaze. They weren't making eye contact and he was glad for that. Hi. They reply. Their voice reminds him of a pre-Quirk era artist, Cavetown, even with just one word. He's not fully sure why. Not exactly the same of course, but it's similar. Hi, hi, I'm TT Tam Tamaki Amajiki. I'm sorry, took some photos of you. I just thought that TU with th the butterflies and th the flowers under the tea tree would make nice photo too. I see can get rid of them of course. If that. That's what you want. If I see I can keep them th though, I'd like to edit them a bit. Tamaki stuttered, looking down as he fiddled with his camera, feeling a heat across his cheeks, anxiety flooding his veins. I'm Izuku Midoriya. They PR pronouns? You can keep the pictures? See can I see? They asked quietly. Why yes. TT they're probably not the best tea though. I am pretty happy with how they see came out tea though. Tamaki rambled as he handed his camera over to show Midoriya. He watched nervously as Midoriya flicked through each photo. Then they handed the camera back. Then the corners of their mouth lifted slightly, expressing what he felt was joy in their eyes. Those are really well taken. Will you send them to me when you're done with them? They asked. If you'd like. Tamaki responded with a quaky smile, feeling a little excited inside. Someone wanted his photos sent to them. Okay, here's my number dash, Midoriya replied, holding his phone up for him to see, showing a string of numbers for him to type in. Tamaki saved their number and sent them a smiley face so they had his number too. What year are you in? Midoriya asked, having noticed his uniform, which had a couple cute badges with butterflies, bees, frogs, and cats on them. I am a third year student. You? Tamaki replied softly. First year Midoriya answered. See cool, Tamaki murmured. Then he asked something, on impulse which was strange for him. There's usually overthinking before asking questions like this. Wanna be friends? Tamaki asked nervously, looking down at his hands, fiddling with his hands. Why you really wanna be friends with me? Midoriya questioned quietly, looking at the common bluebottle rested on his finger, which Tamaki then took a photo of, then nodded. Why yeah, okay. Yay! Tamaki breathed with a little smile on his face. Tamaki then scooted to sit against the tree beside Midoriya, a bit closer than before. They got to know each other a bit, but mostly stayed quiet, both enjoying each other's company until they had to go back to their homes. Izuku was awake all night. It's not uncommon for him to be awake in the night is a beautiful time and his insomnia certainly is attracted to it. He normally gets a few hours of sleep, sometimes he manages to doze off, if it's during the day if they're lucky. His mother had thrown a knife or 5 at them when they walked through the door though, so that didn't help their sleeping issue. Not at all. One cut his face and ear, they had just barely dodged, but not enough to not get hit at all. It wasn't deep and probably wouldn't scar. Another cut their arm and he had dodged the rest. The cut on their arm had been a bit deep, meaning they had to stitch themselves up. He left earlier than usual. About 4 a.m., so very early. In his uniform, makeup done, pastel blue band-aid on their cheek, hair brushed, headphones on, bag slung on their back, boots tugged on, they headed in the direction of school, texting Kat that they'd already gone, even though Kat would still be snoring. While the city slept, they made their way to school, humming a tune. Soon enough they were in their classroom, alone. Izuku pulled out his sketchbook and started to draw Amajiki, his new friend. It's weird to think that he has a friend other than Kat now, and that friend is anxious, shy and awkward, yet cute and kind. Izuku drew him surrounded by flowers and butterflies and a nervous smile on his face. Izuku fine lines and colored the drawing before resting their head in their arms and just listening to the music. Hitoshi walked into school early. By early, he meant by a couple hours and the sky was still mostly dark. He figured he might as well wander in early, mostly because he was bored and felt the need to do something. He wanders in the garden for a short while, looking over the beautiful flowers, even picking a few for himself. Hitoshi loved flowers. He didn't know what it was about them, but they made him happy when he was sad and relaxed a bit when he was anxious. The garden at UA was filled with lavenders, sunflowers, orchids, pansies, camellias, violets, buttercups, daisies, chrysanthemums, and more. Hitoshi picked a few red roses, picked some daisies and violets too, and wove them together to make a flower crown, which he put on. He hoped he wouldn't get in trouble for touching the garden's flowers at all. Hitoshi eventually went inside as the sky got even lighter and made his way to his classroom. The halls were empty and silent if only his steps were soundless. Eventually he stepped into the 1A classroom and was surprised to see Midoriya already there, headphones on with an art pad in front of him. Midoriya had his eyes closed and was buried into his arms, a band-aid stuck to his cheek. The light of the purple and orange sky lay softly on the boy. Cute, wait, no, you don't know him, stop thinking. Hitoshi had been intrigued by him the previous day too, his attention had also been drawn to a flirty blonde boy. They were both so interesting to him. Hitoshi approached quietly, wishing not to disturb him, to his desk in front of the pretty guy. As he was putting his bag down, Midoriya opened his eyes, blinking slowly, in a way that reminded him of a cat. Hitoshi loved cats. Cute. Hi. Hitoshi Shinso. Hitoshi mumbled in greeting. Hi. Izuku Midoriya. Midoriya replied even quieter than he spoke, moving his headphones around his neck. Midoriya then yawned, showing off his sharp canines in the process. Cat. Are you tired, Midoriya? You can take a nap if you want, we've got quite a while until everyone comes, I can wake you when they do. Hitoshi offered. Midoriya shook his head. I am tired, I've been here since 4 a.m. We do have VE a bit, but I won't sleep, thank you for the offer tea though. Did you make that? He asked, head tilting to the side, pointing up at the crown. Hitoshi took it off with a small smile and nodded. Excitedly. Okay, yeah I did, it has violets, daisies and roses, I went to the garden to waste some time. Would you like it? I make so many of these. Is it really okay? Midoriya asked and Hitoshi's smile widened a bit in excitement, before standing up and slowly placing the crown gently on his head of black and white locks before sitting again. You look absolutely divine, Your Majesty. Hitoshi practically purred the compliment. You're quite charming yourself, sir. Midoriya replied softly, and Hitoshi felt himself melt a little bit. Thank you. Hitoshi breathed. Hitoshi took in the sight of Midoriya, his face was neutral, his skin sparkled in the purple, orange lighting, probably from his makeup, which, like the previous day, looked gorgeous. Midoriya's eyes were dark, yet such bright green. His black and white curls looked soft and bouncy, the flower crown rested where he had placed it on the boy's head. Gorgeous. Hitoshi then took a look at the paper and gasped. Midoriya. Did you draw that? It's beautiful. He exclaimed, looking between the page and the boy. Really? The boy breathed, as if no one ever really told him how good his work was. Yeah. It is. I'd love to see more of your work sometime? If that's okay. Hitoshi requested. Midoriya gaped at him in surprise for a moment before nodding slightly, curls bouncing with the movement. Hitoshi watched as he picked up the art pad and held it out to him. Here. Hitoshi took it gently from Midoriya's hand and flipped to the first page. The first page had what seemed to be a hero costume design, very detailed with notes around it. Hitoshi was in awe and it was only the first page. He turned the page and examined the drawings, then repeated the actions until he got to the latest drawing. Hitoshi looked up to Midoriya, sure he had stars in his eyes, noticing how his gaze was on his hands in his lap. He wasn't sure, since he hid his emotions way better than he himself did, but he got the feeling Midoriya was nervous. The thought widened his small smile slightly for reasons unknown. He realized that it was so odd how much emotion he was expressing in front of Midoriya and how much kindness too. He isn't like this around basically anyone. Why was it so easy to feel so comfortable around him? He doesn't hate it though. He placed the closed book on the desk carefully and Midoriya looked up at it before hesitantly asking, what did you think? His voice seemed to always come out soft and he seemed to keep emotion out of it if he could. Hitoshi could tell he was nervous though. Or maybe he was always nervous. I thought they were amazing. They were all so well drawn. And the ones you fine-lined and colored were so well done. I'd love to see what you draw next. Hitoshi exclaimed excitedly. Thank you, he replied and Hitoshi felt a happy air around them. They sat quietly for a moment, Hitoshi enjoyed the other's presence, he hoped Midoriya didn't mind him. Hitoshi quietly and hesitantly asked something next. Do you wanna be friends? Hitoshi asked, playing with his fingers. MMO okay. Midoriya replied sounding vaguely surprised and Hitoshi grinned. Yay! Hitoshi said to himself. Izuku had been hanging out with Shinso and continued to talk to him and or sit quietly in his presence as the class wandered in. Izuku was slightly amazed by how he had made 2 friends in 2 days when they have only ever had one in their entire life. Soon Cat burst through the door and started making his way over, scowling at anyone that looked his way, except Kirishima. He placed his bag at his desk before approaching Izuku, crouching by their desk. "Izzy, why the F, did you come to school at 4 a.m.? He asked calmly, face blank. "I gave up on the idea of sleep. Then I got bored and came here, because why not?" Izuku answered. "Okay." Cat responded, patting his cheek with a sigh. Cat then noticed the flower crown. "Nice crown, Izzy." "Thank you, Shinso made it and gave it to me." Izuku responded, waving a hand to Shinso who was in front of him, still sitting so that he could see them. Hi." Shinso greeted with a nervous wave. Izuku didn't know it but Cat was glaring hard at Shinso. "Insomniac." Cat responded in his own greeting. "Is that the nickname you've given him?" Izuku asked. "Yup." Cat replied. Izuku nodded. "Oh, are we doing nicknames? Cool, then you're Blasty, 'cause I don't feel like thinking of something better. Midoriya though, maybe Prince, for now at least. You have the crown, and you look simply divine." Shinso smirked. Izuku placed a hand on Cat's head, to keep him from trying to punch or scream at Shinso. "Okay. Lilac?" Izuku asked. Shinso grinned at him. "Cute, sure." Izuku didn't notice the blush that spread across Shinso's face, but Cat did. Kirishima approached smiling wide. Izuku removed their hand from Cat's head. "Hey Bakubro, Midobro, good morning, how are you?" "Oh, Shinso, right? Hi, nice to meet you. How are you?" Kirishima asked cheerfully. If he had a tail it'd be wagging in excitement. Izuku stayed quiet but waved and gave a thumbs up. Cat stood eyes narrowed at Shinso before looking away with a scowl. "TCH, fine, shitty hair." Cat grunted. Come on, my hair ain't that bad." Kirishima whined. Yeah, Hitoshi Shinso, nice meeting you, I'm good." Shinso replied. "Awesome, Shinbro. Oh wow. You look great Midobro. So manly." Kirishima complimented excitedly. Izuku felt the gender euphoria spark and had to bite down a small smile that threatened to spread. "Thank you. Flower crown is from Lilac." Izuku said. "Lilac? You mean Shinbro? Dude, it's so well made. Good job. It's so pretty too." Kirishima complimented, causing Shinso to awkwardly grin and rub the back of his neck. "Haha. Thanks," Shinso responded. The conversation was about to continue, but then the bell rang and everyone rushed to sit. The door slid open the moment the bell stopped. "Good, you're learning," Aizawa said as he sauntered in. "Izzy, you are coming to lunch," Katsuki yelled, seeing Izzy staying put. "Nah," they muttered. "Don't nah me. You have to eat, did you even eat breakfast?" Katsuki questioned. "No," Izzy mumbled, face buried into folded arms. "Midoriya, please go to lunch," Aizawa called from his sleeping bag. Izzy looked up from his arms at the request from Aizawa, staring for seconds before blinking with a sigh and standing up, slinging their bag on. "Oh, so you listen to the caterpillar but not your brother. I, for one, am offended." Katsuki ranted, linking arms with Izzy and dragging him out. Izzy just hummed and allowed themselves to be dragged. "Hey Bakubro. Midobro. Mind if we join you guys for lunch?" Kirishima asked as he caught up. Katsuki remembered his name. He isn't so great with names. "TCH, do whatever," Katsuki called back. "Sick." Office supplies cheered. Katsuki glanced behind them, seeing Kirishima, office supplies, cotton candy, golden retriever and Insomniac. Golden Retriever was dragging Insomniac by the arm. Insomniac was trying to make himself look upset about it and ultimately failing. Katsuki turned back around, continuing to drag Izzy to the cafeteria. Soon enough they were all seated at a table with their lunches. Katsuki was sitting between Izzy and Kirishima, cotton candy on the other side of Kirishima. Across from Mina was office supplies, and across from himself and Izzy were Insomniac and Golden Retriever. Izzy kept their head down and slowly started eating as the table conversed. Office supplies then asked a question that made Izzy choke and him startle. "Hey, are you and Mido dating?" After a few seconds of choking on their food they looked up, face mostly blank, bar the slight disgust. "Ew," Izuku said to the silent table. A couple moments later office supplies, cotton candy, Golden Retriever and Kirishima were cackling, Shinso snickering into his hand. Katsuki huffed. "He's right, that's fing disgusting," Katsuki added. They seemed to laugh harder at that, for why? He did not know. Why's that? Cotton Candy asked. "He's my fing brother." He deadpanned and the table momentarily silenced, before erupting into laughter yet again. Katsuki glanced at Izuku. One look at their face and anyone could tell they were extremely confused. To be fair, he was confused himself. It wasn't all that funny. Soon they all calmed, and Katsuki and Izzy had gone back to eating. Haha, sorry ha, I don't know why that was so funny, ha. Office supplies said. TCH, Katsuki rolled his eyes, then looked to Izuku, who was looking somewhere else in the cafeteria, in confusion. Then they waved to someone. FING what? Who are you waving at, Moth? Katsuki asked. Izuku had never been much of a people person. They tended to avoid social interaction as much as possible. Part of that was because of bullying that they suffered through silently, no matter how much he asked for them to come to him, but they had always been super introverted. All his life Katsuki had been Izuku's one and only friend. So it was really weird that he was waving at someone. Izuku turned and looked back down to his food and quietly answered. I was befriended yesterday afternoon. He's a third-year student. He was very nice. He took some really pretty pictures and is currently editing them. He's gonna send them to me when he's done. Now that was shocking. Katsuki was so proud. Katsuki felt himself grin as he slung an arm around Izzy's shoulders, tugging them into his side. Look at you making friends, I am so proud, ha! Katsuki cheered. I am not making friends, I am being befriended and am yet to decline, thank you. Izzy deadpanned and the table roared with laughter again. Anyone near the table was looking over in confusion and fear. Katsuki had somewhat forgotten their classmates were seated around them if he was honest. Izuku just ate as chaos continued, as it does. Izzy was almost finished with their meal. So, beautiful, does that mean you'd say yes to being my friend? Or maybe something more? Golden Retriever asked. Katsuki froze for a moment, gaping, before glaring as threateningly as he could. Izzy just tilted their head for a moment, chewing their mouthful of rice. Then he swallowed and said, I can say yes to being your friend. Don't quite know what you mean by something more though. Like, best friends? I've heard that term used before. The table stared for a moment and Katsuki could practically feel the protectiveness rise around him. Does that mean you want to be best friends? Golden Retriever asked, breaking the silence, and Izzy gave him an odd look before replying. No? I don't know you, they mumbled, and Katsuki cackled and could hear Kirishima beside him trying to stop himself from snickering, unlike Cotton Candy and Office Supplies, who were not even trying, and Insomniac, who was giggling into his hand as Golden Retriever made a fake sad keening noise that made him think even more of a dog. He should probably learn their names sometime. Aw man. Well, I'm Denki Kaminari, pleasure to make your acquaintance. Golden Retriever, Kaminari, introduced himself. Convenient. I'm Mina Ashido. You can call me Mina, babes. Cotton Candy, Mina called out next. Hantashiro, call me what you like. Office Supplies chimed in. Hitoshi Shinso. Insomniac muttered after getting stared at for a few seconds by Mina and Hanta. Eijiro Kirishima. But you already know that. Kirishima cheered, smiling like the goddamned sun. Katsuki Bakugo, call me whatever. Then everyone looked to Izuku, who had just taken their last bite of their meal. Izuku Midoriya. You can call me Izuku. They murmured. Okay, so we are all friends now. You two very obvi introverts get no say, nor does the angsty ambivert. Mina said, and Katsuki rolled his eyes and slumped back, taking a large mouthful of food in. Who the F is she to call him an angsty ambivert, huh? FING extroverts. Izuku huffed under his breath, causing Katsuki to choke. Holy sheet, sometimes I forget how FING funny Izzy can be, and they aren't even trying to be funny. I wonder if it actually is funny or if my humor is broken. No one else heard, so they're just confused, and Kirishima is patting his back a bit as he cackles after coughing for a few seconds. Damn it, Kirishima is pretty. Wait. What the F dash? Aha. Katsuki sighed and took another bite of his food, and the conversation started up. Izuku poked his cheek and Katsuki turned to him. I'm leaving now. Izzy muttered. Okay, thank you for eating and interacting with people a bit. Proud of you. Katsuki muttered back. He would run a hand through their curls, but they're still wearing the flower crown. They're honestly rocking it too. Katsuki had discreetly gotten a couple of photos of it and sent them to his old hag for her collection of Izzy photos. She loved them and said she was inspired for her and the old man's next clothing line they're working on together. His mom mainly models clothing, but also works as his dad's partner, designing and sometimes making the clothes. Sometimes he and Izzy are dragged to photo shoots to model their clothing. Katsuki has a feeling that's going to happen again soon. Izuku nodded, then booped Katsuki's nose before standing with his tray and walking away. They detoured to seemingly say hello to someone, their new friend most likely, before leaving. Katsuki took another bite while his new friends whined sadly at the loss of Izuku at the table. Okay, honestly, he is so pretty, I am so taking him shopping with me sometime and we are so gonna do makeovers together, he has no choice. Mina gushed. Oh my god, I know right? He is actually gorgeous and my pansexual heart can't take it, and like there are so many hot and beautiful guys and girls, and 5 of them are currently sitting at this table, I am so surprised my panic hasn't decided to make me a blushing mess. Kaminari rambled, cheeks tinting pink. So many pretty, Insomniac muttered into his hands. I must agree Izuku is very pretty, but geez calm down, pretty boys. Hanta snickered. You think I'm pretty? Kaminari and Insomniac asked in sync. Before blushing a bit more, Insomniac buried his face back into his hands and Kaminari had small sparks coming off of him as his hair rose up. Katsuki snorted. These guys are messes, that's funny. Hell yeah, you two are super pretty boys. So manly. Izuku is so cute too, if I could shrink him I would put him in my pocket. Kirishima grinned. Oh my god, what the f, why's everyone simping over my brother? Katsuki laughed into his hand. Katsuki thinks this year might be pretty great. Izuku walked back into the class and noticed Aizawa was still there. Izuku decided to sit by the sleeping bag behind the desk, for some reason. Aizawa didn't mention it so it must have been okay. He's normally quite distrusting of adults, but Izuku feels that this man is safe. Izuku took the flower crown off and placed his headphones over his ears, rested back against the wall, pressed play on his chill playlist and rested his eyes. Shota was resting in his sleeping bag as usual. He had one earbud in as he lay with his eyes closed. Shota assumes it was in the second half of lunch, when the door opened and closed and one of his students entered. Izuku Midoriya. He wasn't expecting them to decide to sit by him and just rest, doing what he himself was doing. Shota glanced up at his small student. He was small and quiet. Shota wasn't quite sure he was a healthy small though, and it didn't help he was going to skip lunch and had apparently not eaten breakfast. Them being quiet seemed to be their norm, but their steps were surprisingly quiet, near silent really. Shota noticed how they looked familiar, yet completely unknown. Shota also noticed that Midoriya and himself looked quite similar. Apparently the kid had an Erasure Quirk quite similar to his, he had seen the kid use it a bit during the entrance exam, but not much. He can't be a cousin or a nephew of his or anything. Shota was adopted by Nizu because his family passed away in a villain attack. If they were related, there is only one way they would be, which he doesn't want to think about. It's very unlikely that Izuku Midoriya is a result of that incident though, he shouldn't worry about that. Shota does feel protective of this student though. He feels like something is up and it's necessary to be protective of the little one. He is protective of his whole class, yeah, but this one kid, just a bit more. Shota goes back to relaxing, feeling a bit more relaxed with the little one by him resting too. The class trailed in, Izuku just closed his eyes, ignoring them. Izuku listened to the music playing in their ears, only able to hear quiet murmuring through his headphones. A few minutes later there was a large hand on his head, causing him to freeze, before looking up and seeing Aizawa and relaxing. His eyes were kind as he ran his fingers through soft black curls before taking his hand back. Izuku took their headphones off to listen. Hey, you should go sit in your seat now, class is starting in a couple minutes. Aizawa sighed and gave a small smile only he could see. How odd. Izuku nodded and stood, headed back to his desk as he put the crown back on. Class soon started with the door slamming open, creating a large bang. Izuku lets out an audible hiss, not unlike a cat, and the whole class turns to him. He can hear Cat snickering. Eha fuayuk. The person who had entered apparently hadn't heard though and spoke after a few seconds. I am here, coming through the door like a normal person. Fing all might, grey rate. For F's sake. They hear Katsuki groan as most of the class erupts, excitement and surprise Izuku guesses, but they're not all that great with emotions. Izuku doesn't pay much attention to what the man's saying, just catching the important bit, where they're headed, as shelves extend from the walls, full of costume cases. The man continues to speak and Izuku stands, unnoticed, then slowly makes their way to the front, walking close to the window, instead of the actual aisle, catching less people's attention than they would have had they gone through the actual aisle. All Might still hadn't noticed them. Aizawa was sitting behind his desk and watching them, but they didn't pay him any mind. Izuku got to the shelves and looked up to where their case was, silently sighing when they realized they wouldn't be able to reach it. As quietly as they could they climbed 2 shelves. By that point he was sure most of the class was watching him, not paying attention to whatever the booming voice was saying. Finally they swiped their case as they jumped down, landing quietly. Izuku walked as fast as he could while still being quiet, making sure to stay out of All Might's sight, walking close to the board, around Aizawa who was still silently watching, but not stopping them. Aizawa was proud. Soon enough they had made it to the door, and the door was halfway open when a voice spoke up. A big, loud, irritating voice. "Ah. Young, child. I haven't released everyone yet." All Might called. Izuku turned around and crossed their arms, face not changing from its usual neutral state, which seemed to make the man nervous. Izuku was tempted to activate their quirk to add to the possible discomfort but decided against it, instead just turned around and walked out. Izuku walked out of the stall, shoving their stuff into a locker, crown carefully placed on top of their other stuff. They planned to keep it, then looked in the mirror. The other guys had started changing as he had walked out of the stall. He stared at his reflection, feeling satisfied with his appearance. They were wearing black steel-toe combat boots with platforms. They had shock absorption and they come with extra parts they can click in, blades of ice skates and wheels of rollerblades that they can keep in a pocket in the back of his belt. They aren't awesome at either, but they'll learn. They wore black cargo pants with black knee pads with green crosses on them, a green and black utility belt, a black skin-tight shirt with a large green cross over their chest and a turtleneck. Sleeves are less clingy, black elbow pads with green crosses, and black and green gloves that helped with shock absorption. He had a grappling hook connected to his belt, which he was kind of excited to use. There was an exercise-safe binder built into the shirt and they were quite happy they followed that particular request. They have goggles too with built-in mist sprayers and a small tank on either side of the goggles for eye drops. They have a recording and emergency function, buttons on the rim of the goggles. The goggles glass is shiny and green but opaque, on the other side completely clear. Izuku hadn't put them on yet, instead they were examining them. They felt a presence beside them and looked up, finding Kaminari. "Wow, you look beautiful, super badass, did you design that?" Kaminari asked, stepping close to his side with a smile. Izuku didn't move away, but he was quite confused. "Thank you?" "Yeah," he responded, looking away and back to the mirror. Kaminari was wearing black boots, pants, a white shirt and a black leather jacket. He had a communications earpiece on too. It all looked to be made of a strong fabric, with built-in armor like their own. The outfit looked pretty simple, but suited him well. Next to approach was Kirishima, who slowly wrapped an arm around Izuku's shoulder, which confused him greatly, but they didn't move away. They may have tensed up slightly though. "Hey guys. Oh wow. You two look great," Kirishima exclaimed, and Izuku focused on what the red-haired boy was wearing. "Oh dear. Kirishima, why you really should have a shirt on, one with built-in armor, it'd be safer for you," Izuku mumbled with a slight downturn to their lips. "Oh. I don't really need one. Look." He held out his hand and in a moment it went from soft-looking to a rock-like texture. "My quirk is hardening, it protects me from getting hurt." Izuku gently lifted the hand in front of him with their free hand, turning it as he silently examined it. "Kirishima, while your quirk is strong and will protect you and surely others, you can't keep it up all the time, and what if there's a surprise attack CK and you don't have time to harden, and there's really a lot of examples, but really having something on would just add extra protection." Izuku tries to explain, eyes focused on the redhead's hand, quirk still active. He doesn't really like talking too much, it makes them a bit anxious, because of all the time he spent muzzled simply because no one wanted to hear his voice and they found it funny. "Oh. Thanks, buddy. I didn't think of that. I'll totally put the request in later," Kirishima said with a smile. Izuku awkwardly gave him a thumbs up, earning laughter from both Kirishima and Kaminari. Other than no shirt, what Kirishima was wearing were bulky reddish-brown boots, black cargo pants, a belt with a large red R where the buckle is, a sort of, probably, tear-away cape around his waist. There were gears that went under his armpits and over his shoulders and a strip of fabric that shot down his chest. Next Lilac approached the mirror. He looked a bit shy as he walked over. Lilac was wearing a pair of black steel-toe boots with shock absorption. They were similar to his, except without the platforms and additional pieces they have. He was wearing a jumpsuit that was basically black but actually purple and had bright purple mesh sleeves. He wore a black utility belt and black knee and elbow pads, black and purple gloves that were probably like their own, but also had something like built-in brass knuckle in them, and a simple black headband to keep his hair from being blown in his face, although that probably wasn't in the costume case. There was a bulky mask around his neck that reminded them too much of the muzzle too. His hero uniform was actually quite pretty in his opinion. "I like the color," Izuku told Lilac after a moment of quietly staring in the mirror. "Thanks, Prince," Lilac mumbled with a small smile. "Wow, aren't you looking good, darlin' da?" Kaminari purred, stepping up to Lilac and leaning up to his face a little. "Not so bad yourself, Angel." Lilac purred back, pressing his right index finger under Kaminari's chin with a smirk. "Stop flirting, dumbass, me and my brother don't need to see that." Katsuki growled as he and Hanta approached the mirror. Izuku turned to him, still under Kirishima's arm, confused. Flirting? They tilted their heads to the side. That's what they were doing? The group went silent for a moment before Hanta approached and poked his cheek, getting their attention. Indeed they were, me Rosa. They replied as Izuku, impulsive yet still slowly, poked their cheek back, getting a small laugh out of him. Ah, okay. They responded. Hanta's hero uniform was all black and white, with yellow added in. White boots with yellow rims and soles, the suit was skin-tight, black with white details, they had yellow sellotape dispensers on their shoulders and his sleeves cut off before their bulky elbows with yellow rims. They were holding a helmet in hand the same colors, and it looked like a sellotape dispenser too. Katsuki's uniform Izuku helped design, black boots with orange details, baggy black cargo pants, silver knee pads, green garter belts connected to his utility belt, a skin-tight sleeveless shirt, black with a bright orange cross on the chest. Like Izuku's, he had gauntlets on his forearms that Izuku helped design, so he knew they were quite strong. Izuku had asked for a support item for his ears but wasn't sure what, but they had little wing things sticking up with his hair. For some reason Katsuki decided he wanted to wear what looked like a cement block around his neck, so that was there too. Izuku looked all of them in the mirror and pulled out their phone, taking a photo of all of them in the mirror before putting his phone in a special pocket, made to protect breakable things like phones. Okay, let's go. Izuku said, quiet as ever as he started making his way out, the others following behind them, Kirishima still with an arm around their shoulders. Izuku flicked on the recording function on their goggles they had put on, as he and his friends walked out into the light of the day. Mina bounced over to them when she saw them, with a wide smile on her face. Oh wow! You guys look amazing. I love your costumes. Mina squealed as she got closer. Mina was wearing cream and maroon boots, a cream coat to match with fur around the collar, and a skin-tight suit with a purple and teal pattern. Oh wow! You look great yourself. Kirishima replied, Kaminari and Shiro nodding enthusiastically beside him. Izuku gave an awkward thumbs up from under Kirishima's arm, looking around the area, seeing some of his classmates in interesting-looking outfits. Soon all of the class was out and Izuku was leaning slightly into Kirishima's side. Then the class began. All Might went on to explain they were doing battle trials, which was mighty stupid, in his personal opinion. This was a group of children with little to no experience with combat and using their quirks in effective ways. They were separated into teams of 2 via lots, and labeled hero and villain, which Izuku wasn't very happy about. He may never have gotten called a villain because no one ever knew of their quirk, but they knew it was considered a villainous quirk and that others in his class had quirks considered villainous quirks and that being labeled villain in a class setting may hurt them. Izuku was paired with Uraraka, one of the people he felt a bit uncomfortable around so far. They were paired against Kat and Ida. Ida has also made them feel uncomfortable. Izuku was on the hero team. They were going first. Izuku sighed and stopped leaning on Kirishima, who was fiddling with his hair. They gave their friends a nod and started walking to where the battle was taking place. Which was a building, therefore making this whole thing even more stupid, because what if the building collapsed or something? Izuku got there and waited until Uraraka came bounding over. Hey, Midori. We haven't spoken much, huh? Let's be besties. I'm Ochako Uraraka, in case you don't remember, we should hang out sometime. Uraraka babbled. Izuku ignored what she said and went straight into planning mode. Kat will probably make his way down here quickly looking for a fight. The bomb is probably on the top floor, Ida would probably stay somewhere around there. The best option is probably to go in from one of the windows on the top floors, I can see some are open, rather than through the door like they're expecting. If I remember correctly you have an anti-gravity quirk so it should be easy. Izuku planned. Uraraka leaned in close to them, making them lean back. Wow! You're, like, so smart. She complimented. Izuku stepped back with a small frown. Then, through the comms provided, All Might started the match. Izuku immediately took out his grappling hook and aimed at the windowsill before shooting. The hook got a good grip on the ledge and soon Izuku was climbing in through the window. Looking down he sees Uraraka walk through the door and he gapes for a moment, before tugging at his hair a bit in irritation. She had not listened to him. Izuku crept through the empty room out into the hallway with his near-silent steps. He peered into a couple rooms, finding them dusty and empty, before hearing a loud voice down the hall. Bingo! Izuku made their way down the hall hearing Ida monologuing to himself about being an unstoppable villain. He entered the room unnoticed by the monologuing armored boy, before activating their quirk, feeling their hair float. The exaggerated laughter stopped and the boy was looking around the room, seemingly having noticed the loss of a part of him. Finally his eyes locked on Izuku. Ah! A hero has come. What have you done? Well, whatever it is, you are still no match for me. Ha ha ha. Ida boomed before starting to run towards Izuku, before stumbling seemingly surprised. In his confusion Izuku sped and slapped the bomb, winning the exercise. What? My quirk, you took my dash. Ida yelled, apparently furious. No, I did not. Izuku mumbled as they blinked and left the room. Izuku entered the viewing room and immediately Kaminari bounced over with a wide smile, the group following with smiles of their own. Izuku! You looked so flippin' awesome. When you whipped out the grappling hook and shot up the wall. And when your hair floated, like wow. Kaminari rambled excitedly. Cat came up behind him and wrapped his arms around their shoulders. I didn't even see you. Pink Cheeks came in through the door and I knocked her out 2 minutes in. So much for a fight. Cat groaned. She wasn't supposed to go through the door. I told her the best way would be going in through the window and she apparently ignored me. She has an anti-gravity quirk, she would have been able to get up there. Izuku growled quietly. They didn't see the surprise on their friends' faces at the sudden growling. Idiot. Cat huffed. Soon Uraraka and Ida walked in. Ida had his helmet off and was scowling. The scowl deepened when he saw Izuku. You took my quirk. Ida yelled. No, I did not. Izuku stated. Ida stormed up to him trying to get in his face but was blocked by Kirishima and Cat, who had let him go. Yes you did. If you didn't, then what did you do? Ida yelled as if his path wasn't blocked. I erased it. Izuku deadpanned, making sure the camera in his goggles was still recording. They didn't want to tell what their quirk was, but he wanted this to be over more. There was silence in the room. No you didn't, that's Mr. Aizawa's quirk. Ida yelled. Yes Aizawa and I have similar quirks and yes I did. Izuku stated. People can have similar quirks, it's not that odd, what is this guy's problem? Isn't his quirk almost the same as Ingenium's? Is he stupid? Alright class. Who do you think the MVP for that battle was? All Might called, seeming not to have noticed the tension in the room. Momo raised her hand. Yes, young Yayorozu? He called. Midoriya. He was the only one who actually planned anything and didn't just rush in, he also located the bomb and secured it. Momo said. Yes, but I think young Ida is the true MVP, for trying so hard and staying in character the entire time. All Might said. Izuku tilted his head. They didn't care to be MVP or anything, but they definitely thought that was stupid reasoning. Soon the next battle started. Todoroki and Shoji, heroes, vs Ojiro and Hagakure, villains, ended quickly, heroes won. Kaminari and Jiro, heroes, vs Momo and Mineta, villains won. Tokoyami and Tsu, heroes, vs Kirishima and Hanta, villains won. Aoyama and Mina, heroes, vs Lilac and Koda, heroes won. Lilac came back from his battle, arms linked with Mina, looking upset, in his opinion. So while the group chatted with Mina, Izuku pulled Lilac from the group. Are you okay? You look upset. Izuku whispered. I'm okay, well, I'm just upset, because you know, being considered the villain even in class is just upsetting. Lilac said with a small frown. Izuku hummed, then tried to think of a way to cheer him up. Izuku exclaimed under his breath before opening one of his pouches, finding the cute stickers. Izuku took one out and pressed it onto Shinso's jumpsuit. It was a little white cat with a red heart. Lilac looked at it and suddenly looked much less sad, they thought. I love cats. Thank you, Shinso smiled. You were sad. Izuku stated, then led him back towards the group. They were all discreetly watching, not that Izuku noticed. Rosa, Violetta. Welcome back. Hanta called as they got closer. We are indeed back. Lilac replied. Izuku nodded. Well, my dear friends, ready to head out? Kaminari asked and they all nodded and went to the changing rooms to get back into their uniform. Denki walked back into the classroom with Kirishima, Hanta, Katsuki and Shinso, seeing Izuku already drooping over his desk, headphones on and flower crown placed carefully on top. Cute. He glanced at Shinso beside him, seeing him looking at the sticker Izuku had given him, that he had put on his blazer, with a ghost of a smile. Also cute. My polyamorous heart. Do I have crushes? I so have crushes. They take their seats and Mr. Aizawa goes over a few things before letting them do their own thing. Denki skipped over and sat on Shinso's desk, Mina, Kirishima and Katsuki followed him over and Hanta pulled his chair over too. Katsuki made Izuku move so he could sit on his desk. Izuku laid his head on Katsuki's lap when he sat down, resulting in Katsuki taking their crown off, placing it gently on Izuku's bag that was dumped on the ground. Katsuki played with Izuku's hair while he listened to music and practically melted into his brother's lap. Kirishima and Mina sat cross-legged on the ground. Should we all hang out sometime? Like outside of school? Just chill and do something? Denki asked, swinging his legs as he leaned back on his arms. Should. Mina gasped. Totally. Kirishima exclaimed. I'm down, Azalea. Hanta replied. TCH, whatever. Katsuki huffed. Okay. Shinso muttered with a small smile. They looked to Izuku, but realized he wasn't listening. Katsuki pulled off Izuku's headphones and he sat up, staring blankly at Katsuki, reaching to take his headphones back, but Katsuki held them out of reach, causing a ghost of a frown to make its way on his face. Blondie asked if we all wanted to hang out sometime outside of school. You down? Katsuki asked, and Denki knows his face must show at least a bit but probably a lot of the offense at the nickname. Am I but a simple blonde to him? Izuku glanced around for a moment and finally pointed at himself in question, as if no one had invited him out before. That thought made Denki sad. Growing up he had friends, but was also bullied. By the last day of middle school, he realized that almost all of his friends were making fun of him behind his back, because of what his quirk does to him and his ADHD. By the last day of middle school, he was the clown. The guy everyone laughed at, not necessarily because he says funny things, often because of the way he is. When he was 4 and got his quirk, he was labeled strong yet weak. Strong because his quirk was strong. Weak because there was a weakness everyone could see. As if nobody else had weaknesses. He had quite a few good friends in his time. Quite a few bad ones too. He was invited out, and had a lot of fun. The idea that others never got that at all, well, how else is he supposed to feel other than sad? Yes, you, Izu babe. Mina responded, arms out wide, flapping up and down. Ah? Izuku whispered, that's so weird. Katsuki snorted and ruffled his hair. You've gone out with me, the old hag and the old man, what makes this so weird, huh? Katsuki asked, amused. I've been going out with you 3 since I was 3. Beyond you guys I've never been out with people before. Well, technically my mother too, but it's been a long while. I also don't think that counts. Izuku stated. One thing Denki has noticed about Izuku throughout the day is that he always speaks quietly. His voice is only really loud enough for the group to hear, not loud enough for people around the class to hear at all. His voice was so pretty too, it reminded him of a pre-quirk artist he listens to, but he can't pinpoint which one. Aw man, then you have to come then. Kirishima cried. Okay. One word and the whole group cheered. Even Katsuki and Shinso. Shinso's was quiet and Katsuki's was a bit sarcastic, but they still did it. Izuku buried his face back into Katsuki's stomach, causing Denki to feel a little jealous of Katsuki. Denki heard footsteps and looked up, seeing Yamamo smiling nervously at them. Hi. Denki greeted with a grin, hoping she'd be less nervous. Hello. Ah, in case you don't remember, I'm Momo Yaoyorozu, nice to meet you. You can call me Momo or Yamamo, my last name is a mouthful. Yamamo reintroduced herself, and the group nodded and said their own hellos. Anyways, I was wondering if I could have all of your phone numbers so I can make a class group chat? Then we can all get to know each other. Yamamo said with a smile, hands clasped together in front of her. Sure. Yo, why haven't we thought of exchanging numbers earlier? Hanta asked. Everyone exchanged numbers, Katsuki giving Izuku's for him, and Momo walked away with a wide happy smile, while Mina created a group chat for them. What's with the face, Jasmine? Hanta asked, looking down to Mina, who had a frown etching her face. I don't know what to call the chat. She replied, eyebrows furrowed. Weird dash. O's? I don't fing know, ISEK at names. Denki said, rubbing the back of his neck. Any ideas, beautiful? He drawled, leaning into Shinso's space. I don't have any, sorry, doll. Shinso drawled right back. Fing hot, gorgeous, being. I don't know either. Kirishima said, chin resting on his fist. Denki noticed Izuku sit up and look down, then around the group. Then he opened his mouth. The greenhouse. He suggested, and the group paused. Why, moth? Katsuki asked, seemingly as confused as the rest of them. Well, Hanta has been calling all of us by the names of flowers in Spanish. Based on colors, I think, rather than meaning. I like flowers. Lilac likes flowers. Hanta probably likes flowers. Flowers can be raised in greenhouses. It sounds more interesting than the garden. And also, why not? Izuku rambled, staring at the ceiling. Yes. Good idea. That's so cute. Mina cheered, furiously typing into her phone. Great idea, Izubro. Kirishima exclaimed, grinning widely. Yeah. Denki grinned. They continued to chat until the bell rang and they all went their separate ways. I have some panpali panicking to do. When Izuku got home, he was surprised to see his mother there. She didn't speak to him, but she did throw an empty glass bottle at him, then punched him, giving them a black eye and then kneed them in the stomach, which did not feel great, before heading back into the living room mumbling about how he looked too much like his father, and about how he was useless and worthless. Izuku wandered into his room. He placed his flower crown in a box in their closet for safekeeping and changed into some comfortable clothing before crashing down onto their bed, exhausted. They wondered if their dad was really dead. They wondered what he was like. What would life be like if his dad was around? He didn't know and probably never would. They were tired, they wanted to sleep. He didn't want to think. After 2 hours of lying in silence, he fell asleep. Run, 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 you have to run, if you don't you'll be limping home, dripping blood all over again. Run, run, run. Hey Midoriya. Get back here. Stop running away like a little girl. Oh wait. You are one. Whoops. Haha. You can't run forever, you quirkless freak. Worthless brat, get back here. The kids he grew up going to school with called after him. Please stop it. Izuku cried, tears welling up in the corners of their eyes. Is the little confused girl gonna cry? Haha. If you stop running now, we'll make the punishment less painful for you. I don't want to hear your voice, you worthless piece of shit. No one's coming to save you. Their voices called after him. He kept running. Soon all he was surrounded with was black. There was only themselves surrounded by inky black. Then there was metal digging into his face and a leather strap clinging around his skull. They were tied down in their middle school classroom, silently screaming to be released because no sound would come out no matter how hard they tried and the muzzle just made it hard to breathe. Help, 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 won't anyone help me? No, a voice responded to his thoughts and Izuku opened their eyes they didn't know they had closed and found he was back surrounded in inky black. Why not? Because you're quirkless and you're worthless. Why would anyone help you? The voice replied mockingly. He recognized the voice to be his mother, then found himself and her in the living room, their mother standing over them. You are quirkless. You are disgusting, you are worthless. You mean nothing to me. You're a girl. You will never be anything else. You look just like your father, how f-ing disgusting. Stop. 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 I want this to stop. Then suddenly they're awake. He's in his room, lying in bed. They don't shoot up with an exaggerated gasp like in stories and movies, they lay still in their bed, sweating and breathing heavily. By the time they can check the time, it's not even 3 a.m. So Izuku packs his makeup and uniform up in his bag and heads down the road to Kat's. They unlock the door and go straight to Kat's room, dropping their stuff by the desk. He crawls into bed next to Katsuki and nuzzles into his chest, wrapping his arms around the blonde's waist. It takes a bit but he does fall back asleep. Katsuki woke up to his alarm, warm. He immediately realized Izuku had come over in the middle of the night. Which means he probably had a nightmare or something that he's not gonna tell him about, no matter how much he asks. Katsuki holds Izzy tighter, wishing his little brother would let him help them. Izzy, 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 it's time to get up. Katsuki mumbled, pressing a kiss to Izuku's hair. Izuku looked up and Katsuki could tell he was way more tired than the previous day and to him clearly upset. Sweetheart, what's wrong? Will you let me know? You know I'm always here for you, yeah? Katsuki murmured, running his fingers through Izzy's locks. Izuku leaned back and pulled his hands into view. Oh dear, it's one of those days. I had a nightmare. Quirkists, transphobes, and muzzles. I'm upset. I don't want to go to school. Izuku signed and it was surprising because they told more than they usually do. Oh sweetheart? I'm sorry you had a rough night. How about we take the day off? We, instead, sleep some more, watch some movies and we can drink some strawberry milk. I got a big jug of it on my way home yesterday. Sounds good? Katsuki asked, twirling Izzy's curls as he waited for their reply. He mentioned the strawberry milk knowing Izuku loved it, he was the main reason they ever bought it. Can you ask your mom to call the school? Izuku asked and Katsuki nodded, reaching for his phone. Yes I can, love. You know, you could probably call her Ma or something by now instead of Auntie, she's like your second mother at this point. Katsuki said as he texted his old hag. He saw Izuku shrug in his peripheral vision. Katsuki sent the text and put his phone down before looking back to Izzy, seeing them trying to keep himself awake, blinking sleepily. Katsuki wrapped his arms back around them. Okay, darling, no need to keep yourself awake anymore, go back to sleep. Katsuki whispered, closing his own eyes. I hope Izzy feels better soon. It's sad to see him so upset, he never really lets anyone know he's upset. Sleep well, Muff. Shota got a message from Nizu saying Katsuki Bakugo and Izuku Midoriya wouldn't be coming in for the day, due to mental health reasons. Shota was worried and he hoped they were okay. The press had crowded the gates and he was almost back to his classroom after having to scare the press back so some of the kids could get through. Shota walked into his class as the bell rang, seeing all of his class in their seats. Okay, today I need you to select dash. Shota started to explain their task only to be cut off by Mina, as she insisted on being called. Mr. Aizawa, do you know where Izuku and Katsuki are? She asked and the class began to gossip. TCH, probably didn't have what it took to be a hero. He could hear someone mutter. Quiet. They're fine, they took the day off for personal reasons, anyways, pick a class president and vice president. I don't care how you do it, just get it done. Shota commanded before slipping into his sleeping bag and pretending to sleep as the class erupts into noise. Izuku was lying in Katsuki's bed, waiting for him to come back and having picked a movie to watch, he decided on How to Train Your Dragon, a favorite of theirs. Katsuki had gone downstairs to make them lunch a while ago. Izuku picked up their phone seeing their group chat had a few notifications and put their phone back down again, not wanting to socialize even if it was online. A few minutes later Kat walked in with a tray with 2 plates and 2 lidded cups. I'm back, Honorable, Katsuki said. Izuku waved. Katsuki placed the bottles on the bedside table before handing Izuku a plate of curry and getting into bed next to him with his own curry. Movie time? Kat asked. Izuku nodded. Movie time. So Izuku pressed play and they ate and watched the movie peacefully. Izuku felt less sad. A couple hours later Izuku was leant into Kat's side as another movie played, sipping the last of their strawberry milk. Kat turned on his phone and started reading out the messages to him. The greenhouse. Kiri, good morning. Kami, morning. Han, ugh. Kiri, well someone's not a morning person. Shin, I need at least one energy drink to deal with morning people. Min, mood. Han, brew the gates are so crowded what the fuck. Kami, gasp. Hanta did a swore. Kami, but yeah what the F, why so crowded? Han, all might. Shin, I want another energy drink. Min, well too bad. Shin, but Minae. Min, I'm not letting you go and get one just as we're about to make it through the crowd. Kiri, I think they have vending machines here. Shin, Kiri you are the best. Kiri, why thank you, at what? Kami, if I bought you an energy drink, would I be the best? Shin, you'd be a candidate. Kami at Aizu, at Cats, where is you? Sad face. Kiri, UK? Min, surprised face, is you coming? Shin, we're all here already, just waiting on you too. Han, I hope you two are okay, love. Shin, be good. Min, have a good day. 3. Kiri, see you soon. Kami, we miss you. Kami, did you know bees die without their stingers? Kami, it's just so sad. Han, I did know that, I forgot and now I've been remembered. Han, reminded. Kiri, ah poor bee. Shin, buzz. Min, buzz buzz buzz. Cats, we should be back tomorrow, tongue sticking out. Kami, gasp. Yay. Kiri, see you tomorrow then. Min, whoa. Min, party. Cats, Izzy, party. Aren't they at school? Cats, Cat, yes. Cats, Izzy, then. Why party? Cats, Cat, I think that she was just expressing her excitement. Cats, Izzy, by throwing a party in class. Cats, Izzy, no. Shin, haha, cute. Kiri, adorable. Kami, give him all the hugs OMG. Cats, anything interesting happen in class? Kiri, well, there was Mineta getting stabbed by Jiro for being a pervert to Momo. Kiri, he cried and I personally found that very funny. Min, I don't like that guy. Shin, I don't think anyone likes that guy. Min, good point. Cats, Izuku just signed for me to tell you to get salt and throw it at him. Cats, I don't know why. Cats, a hammer would work fine. Han, a hammer would work fine. Katsuki Bakugo. Shin, how's the prince doing today? Cats, Izzy, I got strawberry milk, that automatically makes it a good day. Cats, he actually came to my house sometime while I was asleep, upset and is not having the best of days, but I did give him strawberry milk, and so he claims it is automatically a good day. Kami, DMN. That's fair. Kami, if I got strawberry milk on a bad day, I'd probably feel better too. Min, oh sheet was happinj. Cats, the F dash? Han, sorry own momnet. Cats, what the F, just happened? Kiri, hey we're back. Shin, momnet. Cats, what happened? Kami, oh you know. Kami, reporters just decided to break into the school. Kami, there was a very loud alarm. Kami, then we were all dragged into the hallway by panicked kids and we all got smushed together because that's how crowded the hallway was, smiley face. Han, you know, as 1 or 5 did. Shin, 10-10 do not recommend. Shin, I'm scrubbing the stranger danger off me when I get home. Kiri, it was not a manly experience. Cats, Izzy, that does not sound pleasant, I'm glad we aren't there. Han, lol. Min, oh you know another thing that happened today? Min, Momo Babe was voted class pres today. Cats, good, she seems like a person with a brain. Kemi, Katsuki? Complimenting someone? Not Izuku? Wawaet? Cats, well she's better than the Vroom Vroom Beach. Shin, Vroom Vroom Beach. Kiri, Yamamo is super nice and smart. Cats, who's vice? Kiri, Izubro, even though he wasn't here, I don't know who voted for him though. Cats, Izzy, no. Cats, Izzy, very much so, does not the F want it, tell them to vote again for vice. Han, oof okay. I was expecting that, he doesn't seem like he'd like that. Han, I wonder who voted for him. Kiri, shrugs. Kami, shrugs. Min, shrugs. Shin, shrugs. Han, shrugs. Shin, oh the bell be ring. Min, lunch is over, see you two tomorrow. Cats, bye losers. Han, bye fellow loser and Izu, love. Kiri, that's a little mean. Cats, Izzy, bye. Shin, be good, bye now. Kiri, bye. Kami, see you two tomorrow. Katsuki looked down to Izuku at his side after turning his phone off, seeing that they had drifted off again. Katsuki puts on another movie to watch and turns the volume down low before pulling the covers up around the both of them more and getting comfortable. Izuku had a bad feeling about today, but he walked arms linked with Kat to school anyways. When they had woken up earlier in the morning, Izuku had finally gotten around to responding to Amajiki's worried texts and now they planned to see each other during lunch. Kasuki was dragging them along the path as they looked around anxiously. Soon enough they were walking through the gates and heading to class. As soon as they walked in, Kaminari bounced over leaning forward so he was nose to nose with Izuku, to which he blinked at. He didn't move but he wasn't fully sure he was comfortable. Hello, Cloudy, has anyone ever told you that you were the most stunning being in the room? Kaminari asked. They tilted their head. I don't think so. What's the point in lying about that? Izuku asked and he heard a quiet gasp behind him and spun around, seeing Lilac with a hand on his chest and gaping at them. That is no lie, my dear prince. You quite simply look divine. My dear angel, beside you in beauty. Shinso claimed as he pranced on in, leaning down to Izuku's height. I have no idea what's going on right now, Izuku muttered to himself. My sunshine cannot be lying and so what he says must be true, though I do say he stands next to only you in allure. Kaminari hummed, now standing straight, one hand combing through blonde locks. Izuku looked to Kat, who had moved to stand with the rest of their friends, who were just watching on as this happened, for help. Kat then came to save them from the social situation they truly did not understand. Alright, quit it, dumbass, you're confusing the F out of him. Katsuki huffed as he grabbed their hand and pulled them over to Kirishima, who proceeded to wrap an arm around both of them. He watched as Kat relaxed into Kirishima's side with a slight pink tint to his cheeks. Izuku relaxed the tension in his shoulders and leant a bit into Kiri's side, not noticing Mina having taken photos since they had walked through the door. Hey, little bro, how are you feeling today? I know Suki mentioned you didn't have a great day yesterday. Kiri whispered. I'm fine, Kiri. Izuku mumbled back, feeling a light squeeze from the arm around them. That's good. I'm glad. Kiri replied with a grin he could hear. How are you, Suki bro? I'm alright, Red. Kat replied, leaning more heavily into Kiri's side. Katsuki really likes him, huh? Awesome. Kiri said, smiling with a light pink on his cheeks. How are you? Katsuki asked. I'm great now that all my friends are here. Glad to have you back. Kiri replied and Kat hummed with a small nod into their friend's shoulder. Hanta took Izuku's hand, gently tugged them away and wrapped their arms around them instead, resting their chin on his shoulder. Izuku tensed for a moment before relaxing back into Hanta's chest with a silent sigh. Good to see you, Rosa. Hanta told him. Nice to see you, Iris. Izuku responded. Ah, you gave me a flower nickname too, thanks bro. Hanta cooed happily. Izuku hummed in response, resting his eyes as he settled in their warmth. They're happy to know someone else who goes by he/they pronouns and is also happy he's their friend. He feels oddly comfortable with him, because this is a person who understands. Maybe he should tell his friends that they go by he/they pronouns. That's a good idea. Hopefully. Oh god, what if it's not though? They didn't see the jealous look directed their way from Uraraka or the irritated expressions of both Ida and Mineta. Shota wandered into his classroom before the bell rang, sipping on his coffee, seeing small groups have already formed, but the main one that he notices isn't really small, it's 35% of his class. Mina Ashido stood chatting with Denki Kaminari, who was perched on Hitoshi Shinso's desk, where Shinso sat, also partaking in the conversation. By the three of them Ijiro Kirishima stood with, a bit surprisingly, Katsuki Bakugo slumped into his side, partaking in the three's conversation a small amount too. Not far away Hantashiro swayed with his arms wrapped around one, Izuku Midoriya, who looked peaceful and half asleep. He found it all quite cute and discreetly while no one knew he was there he snapped a photo and sent it to the teacher's text chat. UA teachers. Show, insert image. Show, this is what I walked in and saw. Show, so far my favorite little group. Nizu, I shall save this image for the yearbook. Heiza, oh my goshness. They're all so cute. Nimue, oh the sweethearts. Seiki, oh they are cute, I can't deny that, sadly. Hig, they're so cuddly with each other. Hig, mine are building bombs, cackling maniacally and trying to one-up each other. Hig, why can't mine be all soft and fuzzy? Show, one of them pretty much is a bomb and he be snuggling into my spiky red kid. Nimue, spiky red kid. Heiza, I love the little guy's hair, the black and the white. Do you think it's natural or dyed? Show, I think natural. Show, he's my current favorite. Seiki, you have favorites? Show, yeah. Ainen, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see them all later today. I'm gonna give them marshmallows. Ken, they seem close already, that's nice. Rio, I like the energy they give off. Chi, oh, dearie, your students look so sweet. Chi, why does the black and white-haired kiddo have a band-aid on his cheek? Show, I do not know. Show, it was there the other day too. Chi, okay. Any injuries, send the dears to me, young man. Show, yes grandma. Hig, I still can't believe you got all the softies. Nimue, 2 different courses though. Hig, still. Izuku sat through his classes, trying his hardest to keep up as best as he could until lunch. It wasn't that he didn't know what they were learning, he knew the basics of what they were learning, it was just keeping up with reading, words, and letters to make sure he knew what was being taught and that he could take notes on what he didn't know. That was stressful, because the letters and words sometimes mess with him. Sometimes they need the text 2 sizes bigger and more often than not, reading from solid paper or books was harder than it seemed for other people. Izuku taught themselves most of what they knew in their own time, because he couldn't follow along at the pace they were going. Izuku often asked Kat to read things out for him when they were studying together or not necessarily important things throughout the day if they felt themselves struggling, because words were not their friend. Izuku would look over everything at a later date, but for the time being Izuku found themselves walking out the door before the teacher can even dismiss them for lunch, off to find Class 3A to eat with Amajiki. By the time they arrived at their destination people were leaving their classrooms, causing the hallways to look less spacious, which they found uncomfortable but shrugged it off. They stood by the door as the class inside came pouring out, staring as best they could out the window, ignoring the odd looks that made them feel slightly more self-conscious. Soon there was a soft hum beside them, a voice he was familiar with, and he turned to see Amajiki standing there. Hello. Izuku hummed. Hi. Amajiki replied. Do you mind if we link arms or hold hands or something G? The halls are a bit too cc crowded f for mil liking. We don't have tt though. Amajiki stuttered out. Izuku offered his hand to the older boy, who took it gently and gave a soft awkward smile, before leading the way to the cafeteria. They entered and got their food before heading off to one of the less crowded areas, where blonde and periwinkle hair stood out. They arrived at the table, holding trays and still hand in hand. Hi. This is Izuku Midoriya, he is MMIF friend. Amajiki introduced, and Izuku gave a small nod. Long periwinkle hair bounced as a girl stood up leaning across the table as he and Amajiki took their seats. Whoa! You didn't mention he was pretty. Oh, is your hair natural or did you dye it? Did you bleach it? Did you dye it and bleach it? Was it a quirk? Was it your quirk? Hey, how did you two meet? You know, you're really small. What year are you from? Do you have many friends? Can I meet them? Did you do your makeup yourself? It's so pretty. Do you want to be friends too? We're friends now. Your eyes are so dark yet still so green. Where did you get those pins? Are you emo? Miss Periwinkle rambled questions. As she continued to ask questions, Izuku slowly took bites of his food, watching as she made wide gestures with her arms. Eventually the blonde pushed her back with a grin. Sorry about her, she's super curious. I'm Mirio Togata, but you can call me Mirio. We're friends now. Tam seems super fond of you, Mirio told them with a smile. Izuku glanced at Amajiki, who gave a little shaky smile and leaned in to whisper. He SSS my boyfriend, he whispered and leaned back with a smile. Oh, Izuku said. They're cute together. Oh. And I am Nijire Hato. Pleasure to meet you. Call me Nijire. Nijire cheered and stuck a hand out across the table, which he hesitantly took, resulting in it being shook wildly for 20 seconds. You can call me Izuku. I prefer ferret. Izuku told them. Why you can call all me Tamaki-ki, I prefer it tea with friends. Tamaki said softly and Izuku nodded. Oh why yeah, how is your PH photo editing going? Izuku asked Tamaki. Oh. It's going well. I'm so excited to show you. Tamaki exclaimed, visibly excited before shoving a mouthful of food in his mouth. I look forward to seeing the results then. Izuku replied softly. Izuku and Tamaki were oblivious to the soft looks Nijire and Mirio traded between themselves. Izuku leaned against the bus in his hero uniform. They enjoyed lunch, it was nice. It wasn't too chaotic nor too calm. They still felt anxious though. They didn't know why this bad feeling was there, but it was. Aizawa soon approached the bus and stood by him, placing a hand gently on his head, causing them to freeze before relaxing. They felt him run his fingers through their hair and it eased the anxiety they were feeling slightly. They stood like that for a while, Aizawa just running fingers through thick curls while Izuku tried not to feel so anxious over nothing. Soon Kaminari, with Hanta on his tail, raced out. They seemed to be playing some game of tag maybe. The rest of their group soon jogged out laughing in amusement at Kaminari and Hanta who were on the ground, after Hanta had tackled Kaminari and playfully pinned him to the ground. He heard Aizawa snort and glanced up at him through white bangs and black eyelashes. Aizawa glanced down at him and ran his fingers through his curls one last time before removing his hand and gesturing towards the group. You should go join them while you wait. Aizawa suggested, so Izuku shrugged and slinked over. They crouched by Kaminari and Hanta, where Kaminari was still pinned and impulsively, but gently poked Kaminari's cheek. You alive? Izuku asked. Oh. Hi, Cloudy. I am. Hanta is just being mean and sitting on me because I took his last piece of gum. Kaminari replied with a thumbs up. Okay. Izuku responded, still poking Kaminari's cheek. What are you doing, Rosa? Hanta asked, maybe curiously, amused, if you asked anyone that wasn't Izuku. Izuku softly grabbed one of Hanta's and guided one finger to poke Kaminari's cheek. It's soft and squishy. Izuku commented softly. You're right. It's quite satisfying. Hanta replied seriously and Izuku nodded. The others were watching, trying not to laugh as Izuku and Hanta poked Kaminari's cheek in silence. The rest of the class was trickling out and also observing, some laughing. Even Aizawa was laughing. Well, not that Izuku noticed. Soon it was time to get on the bus. Okay, everyone, hop on. Aizawa called and everyone went to board the bus. Izuku sat with his goggles on his lap between Lilac and Kiri and across from Mina, who was between Hanta and Kaminari, and Kat was beside Kiri. Soon the bus was moving and Izuku leaned into Shinso's side, enjoying the warmth, not noticing the smiles and blushes on both Shinso and Kaminari's faces, unlike the rest of the group who silently teased and or threatened them. Katsuki. Midoriya, may I ask you a question? Tsu asked and Izuku looked up to her and gave a small nod, slightly hesitant but hoping it wouldn't show. I can be a bit blunt, I mean in no way to offend or upset by anything I say and you don't have to answer. If you're alright with me asking, what is your quirk? Ribbit. Izuku sighed, deciding to just say it because this is bothersome. My quirk is called Gon. That's a spooky name. Lilac murmured. What does that mean? Like, what does it do? Asked Jiro. It's an Erasure Quirk. Izuku stated. Like Mr. Aizawa's? Momo inquired. Pretty much. Izuku replied. That's cool. Lilac said and Izuku just shrugged and leaned further into his side, feeling Shinso move and wrap an arm around him. Izuku thinks quirks are overrated. More he knows so. He lived his life without a quirk for 14 years. They observed as others around them changed because of their quirks and others' quirks. If your quirk was heroic, you would be praised and nobody would have anything against you. If your quirk was villainous, you were bullied and everyone around you has already decided for you that you could never be more than a villain. When your quirk is weak, you are picked on, laughed at, and everyone doubts you. When you're quirkless, you are nothing, you are useless, you are bullied, you are told you will never do anything worth something, the world has already decided you will be nobody. Izuku doesn't believe in quirks being heroic or villainous. He knows some quirks are stronger than others, but doesn't think it should matter, nor does he think it should matter if a person is quirkless. He thinks people are cruel for deciding that these things should matter. Izuku sighs and blocks out the noise around them. Izuku zones back in at a tap to their nose. They look up and see the class is exiting the bus, so he straightens up and slips on his goggles, pressing the recording button. Shinso stands and steps in front of them with a hand held out towards them. After a moment, Izuku took it and they stepped off the bus. Izuku fiddles with his purple friend's hand as the class gawks at the giant glass dome. They watch as Aizawa starts talking to someone they recognize as 13, the space hero. He notices an irritated look on Aizawa's face before the heroes address the class. Izuku doesn't pay attention to what's being said, too busy looking around warily, letting themselves be pulled along by Lilac. They're standing near the door but not all that close, at the top of the staircase, able to see a bit of all the training zones. Izuku's focus zooms in on a sudden black swirl in front of the fountain in the center. He immediately hits the emergency button, just before the lights explode. They take in a deep breath. Everyone out the door. Now! He yells and everyone looks at him surprised before rushing to obey his command. That was the loudest he has ever raised his voice. It was rough but worked, getting everyone's attention. Izuku erases the quirk of the warp villain that had just teleported many figures into the center, feeling their hair rise, Aizawa by their side as they both and 13 rush the students to the door. Aizawa, I need to blink, take over for me, erase the warp villain's quirk. Izuku ordered. On it. Blink. Aizawa says, hair now rising. Izuku blinks, before watching as the last of the students exits, followed by 13. I've already sent an emergency signal to the school, but send Ida to the school. Izuku said and Aizawa nodded as they made their ways out of the door and slammed the door closed behind them and jammed it as best as they could, because the intruders had started rushing for the stairs. Ida. Run to the school. Inform them that villains have infiltrated the USJ. Aizawa commands and Ida hesitates before running. The class looked scared and confused. Izuku kept their eyes on the door which is now being banged on, shouting coming from the inside. Aizawa finally blinks and a portal opens in front of the door. This time, only one person walks through. Izuku activated his quirk as the person, covered in hands, stood before them, seeing Aizawa prepare to attack beside them. The warper stands by them and Izuku has erased their quirk too. Hello. The person rasped nervously. Hello. Who are you? Izuku replied. Well, Tamura Shigaraki, is all anyone calls me. But that's not my name. I am Tenko Shimura. They-them, Shimura rasped. This is Kurojairi. He-they. Okay, nice to meet you. Is there a reason you are crashing first year's training? Izuku inquires, not seeing the looks the entire Frozen class, plus the pro-hero teachers, are giving him. Yes. Shimura says. I was told to. I didn't want to attack or anything. I promise. But I also think this may be my only chance of being saved. Okay. Izuku said, understanding, this was a victim, someone being forced to do bad things. Okay, so there's someone who scares you and you need protection from. They stated. Yes. Shimura replied, relief tinging their voice. Okay. I'm sure that we can get you help. Izuku informed them as they took off the hand covering their face, revealing a rather young person with small scratch marks on their face and bright red eyes with tears pooling. Their lips are chapped and their skin is pale, to go with greasy sky blue hair. Izuku cautiously steps forward and slowly raises his hands, making sure they know where they are, before placing their hands on their cheeks, feeling them melt into gentle touch as tears drip. It will be okay. Izuku murmurs, ignoring the rattling door. Tenko Shimura. I should be going soon. You will be safe, I will tell Master that I couldn't save you from the pros. Kurojairi says. Izuku turns to them, quirk still activated, thumbs still wiping tears. Why not come with us too? Izuku asked. There is no saving me, dear child. I was once human, but I was turned into something non-human. At least this way, if anyone else is taken by the Master, they won't be alone and I can attempt to save them too. Kurogiri told him. Oh. I hope one day you are free. If you will not let us free you today, that someday you will be able to be freed. Izuku replied, internally sad they couldn't save him with Shimura. Thank you, dear child, I will do my best to make sure Master doesn't come attack here again. I apologize that we had to bring so many villains along with us to not blow our cover. Kurojairi said, bowing to Erasure head. Kurojairi. Be safe please. I'll miss you, and thank you for keeping me safe. Shimura cried. Kurojairi placed a misty hand on their head, ruffling blue locks lightly. My child, you are most welcome. I most definitely will miss you too. I shall try my best to keep safe, please be safe yourself. Be happy, my dear child, you have more than earned a happy future. Kurojairi said and Izuku blinked as he finished. Then he was gone and Shimura sobbed. Some of the class was crying too, with how emotional their goodbye was. Izuku focused on Shimura. Soon 13 came over and Shimura turned to them. They opened their arms, offering a hug, and they hesitated, looking at their hands. Destructive quirk? Izuku asked softly, receiving a hesitant nod. I can temporarily erase it for you. They offered. Yes please. Shimura rasped, still crying. Okay. It's erased. Izuku informed and watched them melt into 13. How old are you? 13 asked. S16. They cried into 13's shoulder. Do you have anyone that you can go home to? 13 asked softly. No. They whisper. Then how about? You stay with me? It seems we already have a bit in common. We both have destructive quirks, we both go by they them pronouns, and I am pretty sure I'm already attached to you after seeing all of that go down. They ramble. Really? Shimura asks. Yeah. 13 replied. Then yes please. Shimura sobbed. They hugged each other tighter before letting each other go. Shimura had a wobbly smile on their face as tears slowed, still dripping. Izuku released their quirk and there was another bang on the door. Finally the door burst open and villains began to flow out. The class and Tenko backed up, Izuku, Aizawa and 13 preparing for a fight. Midoriya, back up with the class. Aizawa yelled, but Izuku ignored it and erased all of their quirks, leaving them to stumble in confusion for a moment that he took advantage of and kicked several people down, kneeing a few in the stomach. He hears Cat join the fight, never one to back down from a challenge, and maybe a few others join the battle, but they focus on keeping their eyes open, pressing the eyedrop mist sprayer button, before elbowing a villain in the guts. He feels the air cool and knows that a chunk of the charging villains has been taken out in less than a minute. Izuku keeps making their way through the swinging villains until there's a shout that the heroes are finally there, then they keep going until they can get out of the crowd and jog back to the class. He's panting, he knows, and their friends are trying to fret over them, but he shrugs them off, focusing on what the heroes are doing. Shimura had rushed over to fret over them too, but was also ignored. They had a couple bruises and a few cuts, one they can feel very obviously there on their face, but nothing bad. Soon enough they're pressing the button on their goggles mist sprayers, keeping their quirk up, stressing the villains out by doing so. Soon the battle is over and Izuku closes their eyes, slumping onto Kaminari, who had been trying to fret over them. He felt as the blonde wrapped his arms around them, keeping them up. He finally tunes back into what was being said around him. Snow, darling, you okay? Kaminari asked, arms wrapped around his waist. Yeah, one moment. Izuku mumbled, trying to gather the energy to get off of Kaminari. A moment later Izuku stood back up and turned off the recording function on their goggles, before tugging them off. He looked up, seeing his friends with frowns and Shimura practically vibrating with worry that even Izuku could notice. I'm fine, just needed a moment. Izuku mumbled. Jesus. Izzy, what the F dash? Since this whole thing started you have been full of surprises, and when we get home, I am wrapping you in blankets. Cat yelled, storming forward and wrapping an arm around their neck. Izuku just hummed. Aizawa came over a moment later with a scowl on his face and a deep cut on his cheek. Izuku blinked at him. Izuku Midoriya, do you have any explanation for why you ignored my orders to stand back with the rest of the class at the start of the fight? He asked spookily. I could erase all of their quirks and help take them out until help came. That's what I did. Izuku informed. You erased all of their quirks? Aizawa asked. Yes. I'm tired now. Izuku mumbled. Yeah, and your nose has been bleeding, which is a sign you overused your quirk, remember? Cat asked. You got a headache? I don't think so, maybe later though. Izuku mumbled. Cat nodded. Kiddo, you didn't need to do any of that. Aizawa tried to scold. Izuku simply shrugged. Before Aizawa could say anything, Nizu walked over, looking up at them, and Izuku sat down so he didn't have to. Hello. Nice to finally meet you, Mr. Midoriya. Thank you for the alert. We would not have gotten here so fast if not for you. Nizu squeaked with a sharp smile. Shimura wandered away at the sight of the sharp teeth. You're welcome. Izuku replied. You recorded the battle, yes? Izuku nodded. May I plug your goggles into my tablet for the footage? You may. Izuku said, handing over their goggles, not seeing how everyone still standing was silently freaking out at how easy he interacted with the principal. A moment later he was given the goggles back. Thank you, Mr. Midoriya. You are always welcome to my office. Feel free to come up and join me for tea. Nizu said. Sure. Izuku nodded. Nizu then dragged Aizawa away and Izuku stood back up, then was tackled in a hug from Mina and Hanta. Babe, what the F dash? You're crazy. Taking on that many villains at once, coming back hardly hurt while erasing quirks. Then shrugging at Mr. Aizawa. Then having a casual conversation with Principal Nizu. One of the most intelligent beings on Earth. terrifying all your friends. All. With. A. Straight. Face. What are you? Mina squealed. Izuku shrugged, leaning into Hanta, who sighed. I'm joining, that was all scary as F-. Lilac called before they felt a body join the hug. They then felt more people wrap around the people wrapped around them. Group hug. Kirishima said from somewhere. What the F-? Why am I here? Cat screeched. Shoo, just go with it. Kaminari murmured. What? No. F that. Cat shrieked. Izuku just sighed. This is fine. Shota cub, don't be too hard on him. He doesn't seem to think of there being anything wrong with what he did. The cub is a strange one, I like them. He did quite well with the villains too and came back hardly injured. You don't need to be hard on the cub. Nizu said as they walked away. I know Nizupa. It's just. God, he worries me. He's just so peculiar. Shota said, glancing back to the little ones, where they've all gathered in a group hug. Do keep an eye on them. Nizu replied before walking away. I will. Shota muttered to himself, before calling all of his students to board the bus. Shota had called most of the parents and guardians after being patched up, now he sat staring at the last number. This was the last number he had to call before he could go sit in his classroom surrounded by his students. Inko Midoriya, mother to Izuku Midoriya. He had called Mrs. Bakugo earlier and she had asked about both Katsuki and Izuku, worried. She explained that she used to be close with Izuku's mother and she thinks of Izuku like a second child. He was curious about why they aren't close now. He of course won't pry though. Unless it becomes necessary to know why, somehow. Shota shakes his head and calls the number. After almost a minute someone picks up. A voice hums. Hello, is this Inko Midoriya? He asks. Oh, yes, who is this? The voice inquires. He freezes for a moment. That voice. Nah, it's probably not her. Ah. Eraserhead, your son's homeroom teacher. Shota replies. I don't have a son, Eraserhead. The voice hisses. A daughter, yes. Shota feels even more uncomfortable at that. He wants to lie down. Maybe he isn't out at home. Anyways, there was an attack at the school and we are just calling to inform parents, in case they would like to pick up their kids. The farthest injuries went were scrapes and bruises. Shota informs. Okay then. Mrs. Midoriya replied simply, not sounding even an ounce worried. Bye. Shota said and hung up, before taking a few deep breaths. Shota leaves the teacher's lounge and goes to his class. Shota walked into his classroom seeing everyone in their own small groups. He sees the students that fought and got a little scraped up have been healed. Midoriya seems to be asleep, leaned back into a blushing madly Kaminari's chest, who also has a snoozing Shinso on his shoulder. Bakugo has a sleepy Kirishima leaned into his side and he seems to be fighting with his feelings to make sure he doesn't blush. He's failing but it was a good try. Zero has Mina draped over her back, face tucked into their shoulder. They're all close together in the back corner and it's sweet in his opinion. Todoroki is sitting at his desk not far away, not so subtly glancing at the group in the corner, like he wants to join them. Jiro, Yamamo, Ojiro, Hagakure and Aoyama and sitting in a group near his desk, chatting. Tokoyami, Shoji and Koda are silently sitting and standing near each other in the middle of the class. Tsu, Uraraka and Ida stand in the back corner of their row, Uraraka and Ida occasionally glancing over to where the biggest class group is sat. Mineta is trying to join their conversation too, Shota thinks. Shota just lies down in his sleeping bag, happy that his class is all okay. Izzy, sweetheart, we are eating ice cream, drinking strawberry milk, watching Rio and going to sleep. No arguments. Kat says, dragging Izuku into his room. Okay. Izuku mumbled. Okay, good. I'll get all the good sheet, honorable you go take a shower, wash off the makeup, put on the comfy clothes, no binder, and come back and get into bed. Katsuki demands. Izuku sighed and nodded. They stepped into the bathroom and stared at their face, seeing white bandages on his face. He turns on the heater and the fan, pulls the tap to the shower and slips out of their uniform they had to change back into. They stared at their reflection for a moment, not loving it, but not hating it. They have a weird relationship with how they feel about their body. Face is different from the body. He steps into the burning water and scrubs their skin, trying to feel clean. They wash their hair, feeling the bubbles in their hands. He washes his face, free of the makeup, peeling the bandages off. He stands under the rushing water for a bit, just letting it hit him. Then they finally got out and dried themselves. They got into their soft red sweater and blue with pink flower pajama pants, before looking back at their face in the mirror. Fluffy mane of black and white, dark droopy eyes, freckled but scared nose and cheeks, snow-pale skin. He turns and walks back into the bedroom, finding Kat, with ice cream and strawberry milk on the bedside table. He stood up and wrapped his arms around them and pressed a kiss to his forehead. "Get in bed, I'll be back," Kat ordered softly, looking drained. Izuku thinks, maybe, they're both exhausted today. Izuku walked into school the next week on Monday, Kat dragging them in as usual, and immediately saw Tamaki. The moment Tamaki saw them, he sighed, in relief, not that Izuku could tell, and rushed over. He glanced warily at the glaring Kat before wrapping his arms around Izuku's waist. "You're okay?" He sighed into their shoulder. "I am. Are you okay?" Izuku asked. "I'm not the one who got attacked," he exclaimed. Izuku shrugged. "I'm fine. I was just worried about you," Tamaki mumbled. "Oi, who's this fucker?" Kat asked. "Tamaki Amajiki. My friend," Izuku answered. "Ah," Katsuki said before turning to Tamaki with a glare he squeaked at. "Hurt my baby brother, I'll set you on fire." "What's with you and lighting things on fire?" Izuku asked. "Well, saying I'll explode them got boring." Katsuki shrugged. "Ah," was all Izuku had to say. Tamaki let them go, and after a moment he realized he needed to be somewhere, and so he left. Soon Izuku and Kat had walked into the classroom. Kat let them go and walked further in. Izuku was about to follow, before he was grabbed by Uraraka, who tugged him by the arm, making them uncomfortable. "Midori, you were so cool in that fight last week. You know, we should really hang out more." Uraraka cheered, leaning in towards him, so her chest was almost pressed against his and her nose was almost touching his. Thankfully Mina tugged him back and Uraraka released them. "Aizu babe. Hardly heard from you all weekend. Where were you?" Mina asked as she dragged him away and over to the group, still missing Kaminari and Hanta. "I was at Kat's house, eating ice cream, drinking strawberry milk and watching movies. Oh, and training as well," Izuku replied. "What kind of ice cream?" Kirishima asked. "Cookies and cream," Izuku answered. "Oh yum," Lilac mumbled. Izuku hummed. "Yeah, fuckers, and we ate all of it. Ha ha ha." Kat cackled, earning giggles from the group at his attempt at being mean. Izuku just nodded solemnly. "What? Yo didn't save any for me. That's so mean." Mina whined playfully. Hanta and Kaminari entered. "Yeah, that's so mean." Kaminari pouted as they approached, before stage. Whispering. "What's so mean? They didn't save us any cookies and cream ice cream." Lilac answered, and both Hanta and Kaminari gasped in faux offense. "I have no spaghetti, I am upsetty." Hanta whispered to himself and Izuku snorted, having heard. The group turns to look at him. They tilt their head. "Was that a laugh?" Kaminari asked excitedly. "Was that a laugh, Izuku?" Kirishima asked, just as energetic. "Does a singular snort count as laughter?" Izuku mumbled confused. "Let's just say it does, because I don't know the answer." Lilac said. "You know what I just realized?" Mina asked. "No," Izuku answered. "That was rhetorical, Rosa." Hanta told them. "Ah. Anyways, last week on Thursday when you yelled for everyone to leave the USJ, that's the loudest we have heard you so far." Mina said. "I'm pretty sure that's the loudest he has been in his entire life." Kat says. Yeah. I thought it was important that everyone heard me. So I raised my voice. I hated every second of it." Izuku said. Kirishima patted his head. The bell then rang and in walked Aizawa with a new scar on his face. "Everyone to your seats," he demands, and everyone runs, bar Izuku, back to their seats. Izuku simply walks. "Now, I know the USJ incident was rather startling, so I'd like to make you aware of our school guidance counselor, Hound Dog. You can make an appointment with him if you feel you need to, if you feel it will help. You can also come to any of your teachers, we are here to help," Aizawa says seriously. "Also Shimura is safe and now healing from all that has happened." He informs them, "Now. Your fight is not over." The class tenses, Izuku blinks. The school sports festival is a few weeks away, Aizawa stated, and the class erupts in chatter and excitement. It's so normal. Some of the class cheered, before getting reminded that it's very much so, not a normal school activity. The sports festival is broadcasted live, viewed all over. You must train and do your best. Through the sports festival, you can get the opportunity to receive internship offers, which come a bit after the sports festival. So train hard, Aizawa tells the class. They nod back, determined. Kat opens the door to the classroom, ready to head out, but the door is blocked. Izuku stood behind him, but stepped back at the crowd of people. They aren't a fan of large crowds, they're honestly surprised they were able to fight through the huge crowd at the USJ. A 1C ramble about how apparently Class 1A thought they were better than the other first-year classes because they had been attacked. Izuku sighed and decided to climb on top of the cupboard to reach the vent, unscrewed it and climbed in, before anyone could realize he was gone. The vents were large enough to walk through, which was awesome. They even passed through a couple rooms. Soon enough they were on their way to the apartment. The second he walked through the apartment door and closed it behind him, he got a heavy book slammed into his stomach. Telekinesis can be a beach. They were screamed at for a while his mother pulled at his pretty black and white curls, slapped, punched, and kicked him. She was upset about one of the teachers having called her about the attack. She had been waiting for him to come home just for that since Thursday. Izuku eventually was able to hop in the shower, patch himself up and go lie down. Sometimes he wondered if his mother was actually ever nice to him. He honestly thinks that it was his childish mind making him believe she was nice, because if he tried hard enough, he would remember his mother ignoring him, not like since he was diagnosed quirkless, less than that, but still very there. Sometimes she would say awful or, looking back on it, very manipulative things. Then again though, he could be remembering wrong. He was within the ages of 0 to 5, so there's a good chance his brain is being dramatic. They drift off, surprised their body is letting them sleep. A week of training hard and studying passed. Izuku continued to get closer to their friends during that time. It was still weird to them that they had more than Cat though. It was Friday and they were in the middle of law and ethics with Aizawa. They had the TV on, the news was playing. Aizawa had decided to give them a free PRD to take a break or catch up on other subjects. Suddenly breaking news started playing and more of the class started paying attention. Izuku looked up from their English homework. It was a hostage situation, a large rock-like being holding two people by their necks and two heroes are on the scene. There are other large villains doing the same thing in the background and the heroes are trying to talk them out of doing what they're doing with no success. Izuku stood staring at the screen, silent. Inko Midoriya was being held by her neck, struggling to breathe properly. Cat. Izuku called. Cat looked at them, then to the screen and he stood up too, less silent. Cat cursed. Izuku watched as Aizawa turned to the screen and paled, looking sick. Izuku wondered why. The class was watching the news and both Izuku and Cat. Izuku watched as his mother fell limp in the villain's hold. Izuku didn't cry. He stood staring blankly at the screen, the camera moving to record the rest of the scene. Cat eventually blocked his view. Izzy, you okay? He asked, tears in his eyes. She was his aunt after all. I am. I just don't know what happens now. Izuku said. I don't know either. How do you feel though? Cat asked, hands on their shoulders. Free. Izuku said, making rare eye contact with Cat. Free? Cat mumbled, confused. Izuku nodded. Midoriya, come with me please. Aizawa asked headed to the door. Izuku looked at Cat who was holding tears and pulled him into a quick hug, pressing a kiss in his hair before releasing him and following Aizawa out of the classroom. Shota led Midoriya into his office and closed the door behind them. Midoriya sat down on the couch. Shota took his desk chair and wheeled it over in front of him, sitting down. Okay. Can you tell me why this attack affected you? Shota asked, unsure of how to word his question. My mother was one of the victims, she died on screen. Midoriya replied, no different to how he usually spoke. Okay. Inko Midoriya, yes? A nod. Do you have any family you can go to? Shota asked gently. There's the Bakugos but we aren't blood related. I was told my father died when I was younger, but I'm not fully sure I believe that anymore. I have no extended family to my knowledge. Midoriya informed him. Okay, then how would you like to stay with me? Shota asked. Are you sure? Midoriya asked. Yeah, of course. I would. I would also like to do a DNA test. I think we may be related, for reasons. That wouldn't change me wanting you to stay though, Shota said nervously. Oh. Okay. I would like to stay with you then. Midoriya replied. Great. Shota gave a small smile. I'm sorry about your mom. She was hardly a mother, to be honest. Aunt Mitsuki is more of a mother to me than she probably has ever been. Midoriya said, staring at the ceiling. Tell me about home life sometime? Shota asked, sensing they weren't ready to talk about it. Sure. Midoriya shrugged. Thanks. Shota replied. You can call me Izuku. I don't like my last name. Izuku told him. Well, Izuku, you may call me whatever you're comfortable with. Possibly stick to Aizawa in class, but I don't mind if you don't, it just might make it easier. Shota said with a small smile. Izuku nodded in response. We should head back to class. Izuku muttered, standing up. Shota stood up too. Kiddo, you don't have to go back to class today if you don't want to. Izuku shook his head. I'm trying to finish my English homework. With that said, he turned and left. What a strange child. Shota followed. Shota went to Nizu's office to sign paperwork to foster Izuku before entering the class. Now I have a kid. Izuku is my child. Shota led Izuku through his apartment, showing them around. The two of them had gone to Recovery Girl's office for a DNA test, results will come in a week, then to the Midoriya apartment to pick up Izuku's things, finding he didn't have much there, then they picked up dinner and headed back to Shota's home. Now Shota and Izuku's home. He showed them the living room, the kitchen, the bathroom, the laundry room, his room and their room and the one extra room. Izuku told him he was tired so he left him in his room and Shota went and laid down on the couch. There is a possibility that Izuku is his by blood. Considering who their mother is, he most likely is his kid. That beautiful child grew up and if they are his, then he missed out on his child's childhood, which also possibly wasn't great, because apparently not only did his mother decide to drag Shota and bang him, but also decided to not treat her, possibly his, child right. Shota was upset, but if it turned out that Izuku was his, then he is also happy. God, I am going to spoil that kid. Even if it turns out he isn't mine. He is mine now, legally. If they want me to, I will be adopting them. He deserves so much happiness. Shota fell asleep, planning to spoil his new child. Izuku woke up in a plain room, the walls were a light gray, there was a desk against the wall at the end of the bed, there was a wardrobe diagonal across from the bed, shelves on the wall beside it and there was a bedside cabinet with a purple lava lamp. There were bags of his stuff on the floor. The bed was comfortable, the blankets were soft, the pillows were squishy. It took them a moment of blinking slowly to realize where they were. They were being fostered by their homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa. Izuku reached for their phone, which was plugged into the wall. It was 11 a.m. He had a call from his auntie, he should probably call her back. There were texts in the greenhouse group chat, they had muted the class group chat so they didn't know about that one, they had a few texts from their uncle too. He decided to call his auntie back. There was a lot of sniffling on her end, she needed to make sure he was safe, he promised he would still come around often and told her who he was with. She made him promise to be around soon, Izuku made her promise to take a break, so she could truly grieve for her old friend, then after I love yous, they hung up. Izuku lay on their back for a couple minutes after that, like they were charging up the energy to text people back. Soon they texted their uncle back, reassuring him that he was okay. Then he went to his friend's group chat. The greenhouse. Shin, what happened? Shin, is my prince okay? Kami, is Snow okay? Sad face. Katsuki okay? Sad face. Min, Katsubabe? Izubabe? What's going on, loves? Han, talk to us when you're ready. Kiri, we are here for you. Cats, I'm fine, Izzy said he was fine yesterday. Cats, Auntie was one of the victims yesterday on the news so, while she wasn't one of my favorite people, it still affects me. Kiri, oh no. I'm sorry for your loss, bro. How did you know her? Cats, she was Izzy's mom. Min, oh no. Min, that's terrible. Han, may she rest in peace. Shin, why was she not one of your favorite people? Cats, secret for now, may tell you guys one day, up to Izzy. Kami, Izu's mom died? Are you sure he's okay? Cats, shrugs. Izu, I'm fine. Izu, sure it is sad HSE died. Izu, but she didn't like me very much in ways. Min, Izu babe. Min, we're here if you want to talk though, okay? Izu, okay. Kami, Cloudy. Kami, you are getting a big hug, got it? Kami, got it. Izu, got it. Han, Rosa, I am glad you are doing well. Shin, my prince. I am making you another flower crown. Izu, okay. Izu, by HTE way I go by Hive Pranyuans. Izu, bay. Izuku turned off their phone with a sigh, before sliding off the bed and onto the soft black carpeted ground. They rummaged through their bag until they found soft black sweatpants and a dark purple, oversized sweater, underwear, socks and their binder. They changed into their cozy outfit and pulled out a mirror about to apply their makeup they had taken off before bed. There was a knock on the door and after a silent moment, in walked Aizawa. He stared at their face for a moment, before walking in and crouching in front of them. He slowly placed his hands on their face, thumbs gliding across freckled and scarred cheeks. Little one, why hide all of this? He whispered. To hide the scars it was easier to hide the freckles too. Izuku whispered back with a shrug. Oh, darling child. No makeup today, okay? You don't need to hide your scars, kiddo. If you feel more comfortable when you're out, sure, but here, never hide it, okay? Aizawa asked and Izuku simply nodded his understanding. They weren't sure he knew what the scars meant. Okay, come, I made a late breakfast, because it's lunchtime. Aizawa said, releasing their face, holding a hand out to them, which they took. We can watch movies all day, get to know each other, tomorrow we can go shopping for anything you may need. Izuku nodded and headed to the living room with Aizawa. There were pancakes on the coffee table and fluffy blankets out on the couch along with soft pillows. Izuku sat once Aizawa was seated. They chose to watch home together first as they ate on opposite sides of the couch, under soft blankets on a squishy soft couch. When is your birthday? Shota asked after they had both stopped eating and were both watching the movie. July 15th. You. Izuku replied. November 8th. Shota answered. They sat quietly for a while focusing on the movie. Favorite animal? Izuku asked. Cats. Shota answered. Same. Fish are cool too, Izuku said. That continued for a while, silence as they watched a movie, questions added in from time to time. Slowly Izuku got closer to him on the couch and by 4 p.m., Izuku was tucked into Shota's side, half asleep, while Shota smiled down at them. He played with their hair until they relaxed and fell asleep. Shota took a photo and sent it to the teachers' group chat. UA teachers. Show, insert image. Show, look at my darling child. Show, they have freckles. Show, they are gorgeous. Show, someone hurt my child. Show, they are dead. Show, do not hurt my child. Show, you will die. Nimue, oh my god. Nizu, saving this image of my grandson. Heiza, you have a child? Chi, oh my grandchild is just precious. Show, I am fostering him as of yesterday. Nimue, I'm an aunt. Woo. Heiza, I'm an uncle, hell yeah. Seiki, Seiki, well that kid just gained most of the staff as uncles, aunts, BBs and ninis. Anan, oh my goshness. I get to be BB Anan. Yash. His freckles are like stars. Anan, gasp Tank gets a little cousin. Show, little Tenko and little Izuku. Chi, dearie, they're 15 and 16, they aren't quite so little now. Nimue, but they're so little and so huggable. Heiza, yeah, they're little. TOS, one is a rude young woman and the other is a villain. TOS, nothing cute there. Show, neither of them are female, neither of them are villains, both of them are sweethearts. F off. Nizu, I have muted him for an undecided PRD of time. Show, I'm a nap with my kid now. Show, by ye chapter text. Shota led Izuku by the hand into the mall. They were hesitant to go, but Shota promised it would be fine, so they allowed for themselves to be dragged along. Shota didn't mind shopping, it was alright. Izuku didn't have too much of anything. Shota made quite a bit of money and saved it all up since the start of his career, so he was excited to spoil his kid. They went into a few different stores getting clothes. Shota noticed Izuku mainly went for dark colors or black, often comfy clothes but others more for fashion. There were few pastels in the mix too, green, orange, purple and blue, but not many. They went to a shoe store. He had Izuku pick at least 2 pairs, apparently he hated shoe shopping. He chose a new pair of black boots with platforms and chains, and a pair of comfy sneakers, also black. Their usual boots have little drawings of silver stars on the toes and small platforms. Izuku said they got them second hand. Then they went to a pharmacy. They bought makeup, since Izuku quite likes doing makeup apparently, shampoo and conditioner for curly hair that smelled like coconut, deodorant, razors, new toothpaste and toothbrushes and feminine products that Izuku could need. Shota made sure to not take long in there to keep Izuku comfortable. Then they went to a stationery store, where in the art section, Izuku started stimmying with his hands in excitement, flapping them as they looked through art pads, paints, pens, pencils and brushes. Next they went to an electronics store. Izuku looked hesitant about going in, but Shota squeezed his hand and told them it was for his own peace of mind to make him less hesitant. He bought them a new phone, a phone case, a laptop, a couple USBs, new headphones and earplugs. Then he brought him to another part of the store, made for heroes, where they sold trackers and a few small support items. He got them a bracelet with a tracker in it and a built-in emergency signal. All he had to do was tug off the charm to set it off. The charm Izuku chose was shaped like a silver, shiny, cat and the bracelet was simply black. Izuku said he didn't mind wearing it, which was a relief to Shota. It was something many heroes had for their families, because some villains target the people close to them. He then took them to a bigger store, where they sold basically anything. Izuku had found some badges and earrings they liked while they were wandering. They picked up pink, blue and purple dye, for when they would probably get bored of their hair, according to them. Shota had found out that he often had dyed his hair green, but stopped over the last year. They made it into the kids section, finding loads of soft and fluffy things, causing Izuku to bounce on their toes for a moment before stepping in and looking around. He found a white bunny and a black cat that he liked, and Shota found that adorable. He got them a few blankets too. Soon they were headed back to the car with all their purchases. "Thank you, Aizawa," Izuku said as they made it to the parking lot side by side. "No problem, Kit," Shota replied with a smile. Izuku placed his clothes in the wardrobe, some folded on the bottom, the rest hanging at the top. Accessories in a box on a shelf inside the wardrobe. He placed all the items from the pharmacy on the desk, to put in the bathroom later. He unpacked all of his art stuff at his desk, looking forward to using it. They placed all of their new electronics, bar the phone, in the drawer of his bedside cabinet. They placed the stuffed animals on the bed. He unpacks the stuff he brought from his old apartment, finding the box full of important things he had kept over the years, including their birth certificate. He opens the box, seeing the flower crown from Shinso resting on top. There are old paintings, a blue stuffed bear he tosses onto his bed, their baby blanket, a huge photo album that he has been filling for years, baby photos to middle school photos. He puts the photo album on one of the shelves by the wardrobe and closes the memory box with everything but the bear and book inside. He slid that under his bed, along with his school bag. After a while he is done unpacking and takes the bag from the pharmacy, plus the stuff from the old apartment, to the bathroom. They placed all their makeup, hair dye, deodorant, toothbrush and toothpaste in a container Aizawa said was for them, and placed feminine products and razors in the drawer under the sink. Then he put his hair products on a shelf in the shower. Izuku walked back to the room he was staying in and set up his new phone, transferring everything from the old one onto it, then set up their laptop. They didn't open the new headphones or earplugs yet, because they don't need to yet. Izuku walked out of his room after he was done and dropped onto the couch next to Aizawa, leaning against his side. "Hey, you done putting everything where you want it?" Aizawa asked. Izuku hummed his confirmation. "Okay, I'm ordering in. Anything you want specifically?" "Fries." Izuku answered, "Something salty." "Okay, yeah, fries sounds good, haha," Aizawa replied. Izuku nodded and pulled out his phone. He wasn't tired, but he wasn't feeling very okay with speaking. He realized it felt uncomfortable. Aizawa ran his fingers through his curls. Izuku let out a sound that was very cat-like and unexpected from a human that didn't have a cat quirk. Izuku scrolled through social media and texted back and forth with Tamaki, leant into Aizawa's side until the doorbell rang and Aizawa got up to get the food. When he came back, Izuku leant back into his side as he picked a movie, Scooby-Doo, one of the few live-action ones. Then they ate and watched movies until morning. Then Aizawa realized that Izuku should probably be trying to sleep and sent him to bed, where he didn't sleep until 2 a.m. Izuku yawned in the passenger seat of Aizawa's car as they made their way to school. It was before 5 a.m., Izuku had slept for about 2 hours, then woken up, and minutes later Aizawa walked in saying they had to go into school early because he's a teacher. Izuku had changed into the uniform, done their hair up in a loose bun and applied their makeup, sharp black wings on both eyes, grabbed their bag, phone, headphones, lunch they shoved into their bag, and their smoothie that Aizawa made sure they had grabbed. Then they rushed to the car. Izuku sipped at his drink, headphones on over his ears, blocking out the sounds of their surroundings. It was one of their quiet days, where they couldn't speak, so they hadn't said a word. Aizawa sipped on coffee as he drove. Soon enough they were pulling into the UA parking lot. Izuku got out of the car and walked slightly behind Aizawa, who took his hand and led the way. They went into the teacher's lounge and were met with pop and confetti drifting everywhere. Then a shout of "welcome" followed it, and Izuku was just glad they were wearing their headphones. They looked around, seeing 13, Shimura, Present Mike, Midnight, Nizu, Recovery Girl, Vlad King, Power Loader, Snipe and Ectoplasm with party poppers. Some of them were his teachers. "What the F is this?" Aizawa finally asked, leading them further in. Izuku stood closer to him than before, slightly uncomfortable. "It's a welcome party. We had one for Shimura last week when they were enrolled in a second-year hero class and came in early, so of course we're having one for Midoriya." Present Mike answered. "Ah, right. Sorry, kiddo, I would have warned you if I'd remembered." Aizawa told them. They just shrugged, taking a sip of their smoothie, awkward. Aizawa led him to his desk and gestured for them to sit in his office chair, before walking away to refill his coffee. Present Mike bounded over first, Midnight on his tail. "Hey, little listener. My name is Hisashi Yamada. You can call me Uncle Hisashi if you'd like. We are family now. Shota has been my best friend since our first year. If you ever need any help in English, feel free to come to me." Uncle Hisashi rambled. Izuku nodded along. Izuku doesn't mind calling people what they want to be called, he finds it easy. So apparently they have a second uncle now. Hi, sweetie, aren't you just gorgeous? Namuri Kayama, Auntie Namuri, Nemu, Mori, to you. I look forward to seeing more of your art in class, you're doing fantastic. Auntie Nem cheered. Then Vlad popped up, Sekijiro-kan, but it's Uncle Seiki to you. You can call me Uncle Ecto if you'd like. Ectoplasm said before leaving to, probably, get some work done. Higuri Maijima. Another uncle to your growing collection. Feel free to pop by the support department anytime. Uncle Higuri told them. Izuku internally felt a bit giddy at the idea of going down there. Nizu popped up in front of him with recovery. Girl. Mr. Midoriya. I am sorry for your loss. Welcome to the family, you can call me however you please, I am Shota's adoptive father, he mainly calls me Nizu or Nizupa. Nizu told him before patting his knee gently and walking away. Hi, dearie, I'm Chio Shuzenji, Grandma Chio to you. If you're hurt you make sure to come to me, got that, sonny? Grandma Chio asked. Izuku nodded, getting a pat on the cheek and a kiss on the forehead. It didn't heal anything, nothing needed healing, so he assumes it was just an affectionate gesture. Those were so strange to get from anyone other than the Bakugos, but a nice strange. The last to come up were 13 and Shimura. Hello again, little one. It's nice to see you again. I am Ainen Kuros. You can call me BB. They said excitedly. Izuku nodded in response, mentally filing it with all the other things to call people. Shimura awkwardly waved an artist-gloved hand, which Izuku did in return, before speaking. Well, you already know me. You can call me Tenko, Apparently, we are cousins now. Izuku nodded before signing. I am glad you are safe now. They blinked and seemed to think for a moment before perking up, seeming to understand. Oh. Yes. I am too. Thank you for your kindness. It's okay. Izuku replied before taking a sip of their drink again. Tenko then proceeded to show them some of their favorite video games and trade numbers with him, before heading to class early. Izuku just let the chair rotate slowly for what could have been minutes until Aizawa walked over, slowed it to a stop and patted their head. Hey, Kit. Are you good? Ready for today? Aizawa asked. Izuku shrugged. Suddenly the door burst open and in walked a very skinny person. Izuku did not like the vibe they gave off. Suddenly he buffed up into all might and boomed for anyone anywhere to hear that he was there. Then he deflated. Izuku frowned slightly, leaning back in their foster father's chair, then nudged it to continue its rotation. Suddenly the man seemed to notice they were there and stomped over, before Uncle Seiki and Aizawa blocked his path. This is the teacher's lounge. He shouldn't be in here. The man exclaimed. You're not even a licensed teacher. And he's my kid. He is welcome here. Aizawa hissed with a glowing red glare. Izuku just continued his slow spin and did a little dance with his hands. Namuri was holding back giggles as she recorded the adorableness that was her new nephew. But All Might started, but was cut off by Nizu stepping out of his office and calling him in, causing the man to sulk and wander over and into the principal's office. They heard Aizawa sigh and walk over, before stopping his spin. He also mouthed to Namuri to send him the video, receiving a thumbs up in return. Okay kiddo, you should probably head to the classroom. I'll see you soon, K-button? Aizawa asked. Okay. Bye-bye. Izuku signed before standing and leaving. Izuku stepped into the classroom and almost immediately Kaminari ran up to him and wrapped his arms around him, under his arms and picked him up, squeezing them lightly. Aizu. I told you this was coming. Kaminari mumbled into their shoulder. Izuku watched the rest of the group appear around them. Izuku signed. I am not touching the ground. Causing Kat, Shinso and Mina to snort, having seen it and apparently knowing sign. Okay, fizzy boy, stop dangling my brother. Kat said. Oh. Kaminari then put him down. Lilac then grabbed Izuku's hand and dragged him over to his desk, the group following and pulling something out. Okay, my dear prince, I shall crown you once again, there shall be many more times in the future I shall do this again, but this is now. He says, before gently placing a flower crown made of red roses, pink hydrangeas, daffodils, and lilacs. Shinso takes his hand and twirls him around so everyone can see. Isn't he just charming? Why yes, he is. And I must say you are quite stunning yourself. Kaminari hums as he approaches, leaning slightly into Lilac's face, gently pressing his fingers against the purple boy's chest. Why thank you, Angel. I can say you are quite blinding yourself. Shinso purred, leaning in until they're nose to nose. Izuku glanced at their other friends, seeing them just watching the scene unfold. Izuku goes and sits down. Denki had a thought. Denki was excited about said thought. So when lunch rolled around and his group gathered in the back corner farthest from the door to eat, instead of heading to the cafeteria, he was bouncing in his spot until everyone sat down. Guys, 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 I had an idea. Denki sang. What? Is I it? Mina sang in response. So, it's the end of April, which means a month and a bit until June. Denki began, excited. Which is Pride Month. We should totally do something. I am getting major Cur vibes from this entire group. Mina squealed. Guys, we should keep our sexualities and sheet secret until the 1st of June and have an outing where we wear our colors. So long as everyone's comfy with that, of course. Mina suggested, not suggested because Denki is making sure that happens. Yes. Denki agreed. Hanta and Kiri then agreed too, followed by a shrug and a whatever from Suki, then a nod from Shin. Izuku was not paying attention. Nor was he eating, he was still at his desk by them and was drawing in a sketchbook, headphones around his neck from having them down in class, flower crown from Shin sitting in pretty curls. He was kicking his feet slightly under the desk and snapping his fingers every few minutes as his pencil seemed to glide on the page. His face was no different to how it usually was, pretty, blank, with eyes framed by black. Wow. The group was looking up to him waiting for a response until they seemed to notice he was in Wonderland. Izzy! Suki called, lightly tapping his thigh. Izuku looked down to Suki, giving him his attention. You down for a pride outing on the 1st of June, babe? Mina asked. We're gonna wear the colors of our flags and keep our sexualities and stuff hidden until then. Izuku blinked slowly and his nose twitched a bit, reminding Denki of kittens and bunnies. He lifted his hands after a moment to sign. Okay. Denki cheered happily with Mina and Kiri. Jardan, what should we do though? Hanta asked, before shoving an apple slice in his mouth. We should go ice skating. Kiri suggested. Ooh. Yes. Then, after, get some food, and go shopping. Ay. Mina squealed in excitement. Sounds like a plan then. Shin said, seeming to accept his fate. Denki grinned and bounced in place, happy to have a plan to hang out. Should we have a hangout sometime closer too? Hanta asked, to which Denki, Mina and Kiri nodded enthusiastically. I'm down to hang with you loves anytime. Mina cheered. Denki heard Suki muttering about babysitting a group of idiots, but he knew he was a total softie, no matter how gruff he acted. Aizawa walked in and saw the group in the corner before looking at Izuku, who was back in his own little world, still not eating. Their teacher sighed and walked over, knocking on the desk. Izuku looked up seeing the man, and gave him a nod in greeting. Denki was rather confused as to why this interaction was happening. Have you eaten, kiddo? He asked and Izuku shook his head in response. Can you please eat something? Mr. Aizawa asked gently. Izuku sighed but nodded, reaching for his lunchbox, which seemed to satisfy the man, who walked over to his desk. The F, was that? Katsuki muttered. Mr. Aizawa? Being soft? Do my eyes and ears deceive me? Hanta questioned quietly. No, I saw and heard it too. Shinso mumbled. Izuku took a bite of a sandwich, before going back to his drawing. Anyways, how about we go hang out at a playground somewhere on Friday after school? We could even get ice cream and measuring spoons, cos why not, and eat it there. Let's be childish and free, woo. Mina rambled her suggestion. We so should. Hanta said. Denki was giggling. WYMES measuring spoons? He asked through giggles. Because honestly? Why the and all the gummies not? She replied, shrugging. Kiri nodded, that is a very good point. He said faux serious, causing Denki another giggle fit. What a pretty little laugh, dear angel. Shin complimented with a smile as he watched him. Denki blushed as he continued to quietly giggle. Shin had an upturn to his lips as he watched and his eyes seemed zeroed in. He was cross-legged with his elbows on his knees, fingers laced together under his chin, with shiny, dark purple nail polish decorating each nail. Today he had a few violets tucked behind his ear, blending with gelled-up hair that still looked soft. I shall save the Panpali panic for after school because AAAA. Hide and seek. Aizawa stated. They were playing hide and seek for hero class. A test of their stealth and observation abilities. Speed 2, Izuku thinks. They were to hide anywhere in the school, including the front yard and the gardens. They had to try their hardest not to be found, and try their hardest not to disrupt classes. They were all in their gym gear. Izuku tied their hair back in a low ponytail, crown still on. Aizawa had all of their names written down on strips of paper and put in a hat and was about to pull one out to decide the seeker. Mina had her arm linked with his and he was leaning into her side. She was surprisingly, slightly taller than them, which he mentally pouted about. Izuku Midoriya, the seeker of the first class, won a round of hide and seek. Aizawa called and Izuku sighed loudly. What is my luck? I just wanted to hide in the vents until game over. Sorry Aizu babe. Mina sympathized, giving a light squeeze to his arm. Good luck, little bro, Shima said with a grin. Wish you luck, doll, Shinso drawled with a grin. Lots of luck, Snowstorm, Kaminari cheered. Ha, you ain't finding me, emo moth, Kat said. Izuku sighed at that. Just try your best, me Rosa, Hanta said, and Izuku nodded. Game starts. Now, go hide, you have 5 minutes. Aizawa called, and after calls of goodbyes Izuku is left with Aizawa in the 1A classroom alone. Sorry, Button, I really didn't expect you'd end up Seeker. Izuku just sighed again and shrugged. Little did he know he had a barely visible pout on their face that made Aizawa mentally coo. Are you okay, kiddo? I don't think you've said anything today, Aizawa asked, and Izuku froze for a moment before relaxing. I am fine, this just happens sometimes. Izuku signed, because it's true, it does happen sometimes and it isn't a secret. Some days they're quiet, some days they don't have to be. Sometimes during a day they'll stop talking, sometimes during a day they'll start talking. Sometimes it happens because of a situation he's in for a bit, sometimes it stops when it's over. Sometimes you don't speak? Can't? That's okay, Aizawa replied. How are things going with your friends? I like my friends. I think we have plans for this week after school, Friday and the 1st of June. Izuku signed in response. Okay, that's good, I'll give you some money for the outings, Aizawa said, and Izuku subconsciously started tapping their fingers against their thigh quickly, nervous. Hey, don't worry, it's okay, Aizawa said, then slowly wrapped an arm around their shoulder. In an attempt to make them relax, Izuku almost immediately melted into his side with a silent sigh.
Okay, sadly the chapter is over, and if you enjoyed the video just leave a like, and subscribe with post notification, so when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.